bet you guys are still in the other live. Oh, there you go. Hi, Chris Ree. Hi, Leisha. I don't know what happened. Hi, Whisper to Me. Amani, welcome. First time? Hi, Carla. Hi, Mandy. Hey, Jelly Beans. Hi, Jessica. Hi, VST. Hi, Peggy. Hey, Kansas Sunflower. Hi, Mary Warren. Hi, Allie. Lisa, Flower Girl. Darlene. Hello, Darlene. Pear Tree. Hi, Steph. Leah. Hi, Ethel. Hey, Mandy. Oh, the name Armani is not familiar to me. Hi, Evie. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Julie. Hi, Muka. Hey, Carol. Oh, you watch me all the time? 3 exclamation points. Hey, Crystal. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Mommy for the win. Hi, Michael. Hi, Daniel. Isabel. Did you? It's gone. Somebody said to me, and I don't know if it's true, I did not see it, and the live is deleted. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. What was I going to say? Hi, Rabbit Dog. Casp? Is your first time, Casp? How you doing? How you doing? What was I going to say? Oh, somebody said, and again, I don't know because I didn't see it, but that guy, you know, the misery person, admitted that he was the one that started that account. Now, again, I did not see it, and when they told me to go check the live, I couldn't because it was deleted by the channel creator. Did anybody see that? Did anyone else see that? Because I was just told that. I didn't see it. And hi, Tamlin. Oh, it's your first live, Casp? Did you get the flyer in the mail? Hi, Elise. Hey, Bernard, how are you? Hi, Anne. Hi, Anne. Ow. Hi, Hurricane. Carla, how are you? So nobody else heard that? That's what I heard. You're my biggest fan. I know, Alicia. I was just talking about that to someone today. Hey, Jessica, VST, did I get you guys? I don't want to miss anyone. Step A. So again, hi, Two Scooter. Hi, Jenny D. Hi, Peggy. Did anybody else hear that? It's, remember the guy that came in here and he wanted to set up a Discord for me, and he sounded a lot like this guy Hans that called in one time and said he was from Ohio, and then he started getting all freaked out because someone asked him if he spoke German, and Max was on the line, and he freaked out and all that stuff, and then I found out a lot of stuff about him, and then he started live streaming us, remember? And then someone came in here and said, oh, you should give him a chance. He's really a good guy. Well, I tried to warn that person, as did other people, that you don't know the whole history on this guy and steer clear. Well, she got screwed by him royally. And apparently he was in... This is what I heard. I only heard this from someone, but it was someone that I trust. I mean, it's not someone just like off the street. said that they heard that he was in that creator's room and admitted that he created that account with my kids on it. Did anyone else hear that? Because I went to go see it and it was gone. There was no live stream that had occurred in the last like 6 hours when I went to check it. Everyone's in another live. Can you tell them to come on over here? Is there a picture on in the other live? Or is it just a black screen? Something happened tonight. I don't know what the heck happened, Jeannie. Can you tell everybody we're over here? Hi, Renee Bird. Hey, Janelle. Hi, Pat L. Oh, that rhymed. Hi, Kristen. I remember Hans. He was awful. Must have missed the live. I believe it's the same guy. Same voice. Hi, Backdoor. How are you? A bunch of us are in your other live. Can you tell them to get their butts over here, Backdoor? Hi, Lisa Lat. I didn't see, but I read the post by Gray claiming... I read post by... under a different name. Okay, Kathy, I'm not so sure. Hi, Knitting Artisan. Not so sure what you mean there, Kathy. I'll have to talk to you about that. Hi, Teacup. Hi, it's Apple Snapple. Hi, Linda. I didn't hear it myself, so I can't tell you if it's true or not, just what I heard. Deleting of lives. They should only, like, delete... Yeah, like, I mean, if something happened, like if somebody's clothes fell off, okay? You know, I mean... And even then, if somebody's clothes fell off, I wouldn't delete the live. I would go in and just trim that part out or put like a big shape on the person. I wouldn't delete the live. I really wouldn't. Oh, thanks, Cindy. It was the home screen, and I was there for... Well, I'm glad because, Sharon, I was eating cheesecake. And I was like, if people saw me eating cheesecake, that... They're going to think, like, why is Carolyn eating? I remember that we had cheesecake, and so I had cheesecake, and I made coffee. Oh, I'll tell you. What other creator was he in? It was the one that came in here, Kristen, and asked to, she wanted to, like, make peace. And I said, no, you don't know who you're dealing with. Please educate yourself. And other people told her too. Okay? And she admits now she should have listened because it was a completely calculated attack. But I don't know why he still goes in the room and she allows that. I don't get it. If that's indeed what happened. I didn't watch it, but this is what I was told. Again, I want to make that clear. This is not my account. This is someone that I trust. I mean, but it's weird that none of you have heard of it. Yeah, there was something wrong with my Streamlabs. Hi, Robin. Hi, Feisty Taco. Hi, Merlin. Hey, Karen McCann. Hi, Led Zepp. Hey, William Jen. Hi, Alicia. So did anybody hear? No one else on YouTube heard this? Okay, so maybe then they heard the wrong thing. I don't know. I have no way to confirm it. Hi, Alethea, because the live is deleted. Hi, Danielle. I know, Katie. I know we were all over here. Hi, Kelly Vanelli. Hi, Earthbound. I'm here. You're about to drop off to sleep. Oh, no. Kathy just said she saw... Hold on a minute. Kathy just said... I missed that. It jumped. Enjoy the cheesecake. I did enjoy it. Nothing. I just heard that. Hold on. I can't see what Kristen wrote. Hi, Potter. You ate your cheesecake. I'm done. I finished it. That's why I finished it like fast. So I'm like, oh crap. Don't tell me I was live eating like that. I'm trying to find. Hold on a sec. I'm trying. Kristen, I lost your response. I can't find it anymore. Look at the comments. He left a message? He left a message. Well, let me take a look. I haven't checked any comments. I'll tell you what I've been doing all day, okay? Because I haven't definitely been on YouTube. All right, let me see. So I haven't even checked comments from last night. Let me see. Okay, so last night, let me see. I'm still here, guys. I'm just over here. Go here. So it's last night's. The chat, no. See, I've got, okay. Let me get rid of this that everybody's in, this chatting, because it's, let me see if I can delete that. Let's see. To go in the studio so that nobody keeps getting trapped over there. Videos. Lives. Okay, so which is the one I've got to delete? This one? No, that's not the one. Yes? No, it is the one. Okay, let me delete that one. Delete forever. Delete forever. Okay, so now nobody should be stuck in the other one in like 1 second because it's going to be gone. Okay, and then while you wait, you can leave the screen. Okay. Now I have to go to last night, which is the Dior Kunz one, right? Is that the one? Yeah. Okay. Go to comments. Okay. And you said there's, oh, French apple tart. Who are you? Okay, yeah, I could live in a bubble too. Just like, what? Okay, so let me. Do not host my channel. I love this. Do not host your channel in your family kitchen where they have to come to eat. Do not show people where, okay, yeah, okay, that's okay. You can go live in a bubble. I haven't seen it yet, so hold on, I'm trying to. If you hear water and stuff, that's and like squeaky sounds like that, that's it's because I'm soaking. I have my feet in a foot spa. Don't even ask. I have to balance it sometime, you know. Okay, let's see. Red Lake Highland. I would be so afraid I would have no knowledge. Okay. I don't see it yet. Did they put it under someone or did they put it by themselves? I'm just going to scroll through all the way through and just look for that name. I don't see it. I don't see it. Did he put it under someone? Do you think one of the moderators removed it? Let me see if it's in the I don't know. I don't see it. I'm going to go back to the chat because maybe I misheard you guys saying that it was under last night's video. Okay, I'm back in the chat. Did I mishear? And it's in last night's video? What are you talking about? Listen, this is what it is, okay? No one is past that. Believe me, that's not, listen. That's my feet. All of that is my feet. They're on, believe me, it's my feet. What was the... I don't know. Where the heck? Oh, I thought somebody said something like they thought, I don't know, that noise was something else. Believe me, that noise is my feet. Somebody might have removed it. Oh my goodness, this troll. Hi, April. You lost your pug, Sammy? Wait. You hold on a minute. You lost your pug, Sammy D, and met him. He is years old and met him when he was 2 weeks old, and the loss has been really hard on me. Oh wait, the pug that you're normally in your videos with, April? I'm really sorry to hear that. I lost 2 dogs. Zoe, which one do you remember? The Westie passed away in my arms on October 2nd. And then Delilah died suddenly at the very beginning of November. I think it was November 6th or 7th. It's been rough. Yeah, but we have a new puppy. We got a new puppy 3 weeks ago. I think it was just, everybody knows better than me. I think it was just 3 weeks ago on Tuesday. But I'm really sorry to hear that. I don't know, how old was your doggy? Trolls are thick tonight. It's thick in here. You can cut the trolls with a knife tonight. Yeah, that's hard, April. I'm sorry to hear that. Your sister wrote it down and sent it to you. Okay. 3 weeks. How old's my dog again? No, it was 3 weeks when you got it. Okay. I'm terrible with dates like that. Hi, Karen. So anyway, what I was doing today, I will tell you that I was supposed to be crafting, with someone over Zoom, but she was crafting. She made the cutest, oh my gosh, it was so freaking cute. Out of the sock, she made the field mouse. I should have asked her for a picture of it. Well, she made the field mouse. But then FedEx came and they brought in 2 boxes that she sent over from London. So I went to go get my craft stuff and it's like, no, open the boxes. And I did a video. I'm going to put it on Happy Mail so you can see. But she went crazy, okay, on what she sent. Just crazy nutso. Very, very, very nice, like unbelievably generous. But anyway, she was crafting. And she made this cutest little mouse. And I ended up not crafting, but the whole family kind of visiting and kind of had dinner together. She had Chipotle. Jimmy made something. Yeah, it was crazy. But so that's what I did for the majority of the day. And didn't really get to do much else, which is fine. I mean, I'm talking about like in research wise. Hi, Miley. What's the topic? Right now, the topic is, what was the topic? Oh, I was just trying to find out. Someone said to me that somebody admitted to creating that channel, but I can't get a confirmation on it. And now Kathy said, you sent me something. I don't know. It sounds very familiar to me. My boys are fur kids. You have thrush, Peggy? Did you get some medication? Thank you, everyone. I do not have kids, and this might sound odd, but they are my... No, that's April. A lot of people have fur kids only. I spent a lot of the day watching the Mark Sievers case playlist. Yeah, well, I figured we could go through some of that, too. Because there is a lot, and the penalty phase is coming up on Tuesday. It's not coming up Monday, it's coming up Tuesday. I have not noticed one of them because they're not worth it. The trolls don't have school tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to, hold on a minute. Some not a craft, like a thing where you make crafts and see Santa and a community thing. It's fun, good fun. I don't know why my thingy is saying. Oh, I know what it's. Hold on a minute. Mr. Pinkle. Haven't seen you in a long, long time, Mr. Pinkle. How's it going, Mr. Pinkle? Alma, how are you? Anyway, I got a bunch of my Cricut blades in. Let's see. So I'm excited about that because I want to do some more work, which reminds me I should get my house. Hold on a minute, I gotta get my house up higher because Desi will come in and eat my house. The glitter off my pants. Okay. I haven't, Jeffrey, it's really sad that I'm having an affair with Jeff, and yet I haven't been able, I didn't get a chance to talk to him today about the painting. Because I want to find out if we're going to do the painting. Oh, and Barbara made, I'll show you, Barbara made these really cute, the snowmen as well. Tell him happy birthday from whose happy birthday? Daniel, your husband? Cole, your first time here? Welcome. My dogs bring me absolute joy. Yeah, Miley, I missed a confession. I think so. I missed it too. I was just asking if anyone else saw it. You love your dog, she's your world. Are you going to be cutting wood? I just ordered. What did I order? What did I order? No, you know what I ordered? I ordered chipboard. I did order wood, but I actually bought the wood tiles for the Scrabble because I want to do a whole Scrabble wall with the labels with the Cricut, like make the letter labels and put them on there. You guys all missed it. Okay. And I was ordering basswood. Did I order? I think I got some basswood too. Did I get the basswood? I don't know if I got the basswood yet or not. I've been ordering. Let me see. You got 80% off of ribbon at Michael's today? What are you going to make with it? What kind of ribbon did you get? That's a good deal. Was that just for you or everybody? They had that 80% off on, was it sometimes like my Michael's? I don't go there much. It's not really close to me, but they have an 80% off section where I've got stuff. Oh, is he yours, Max? Maybe that's where he's been. I don't know. I'm trying to get to talk to him about the painting. I don't know. Dogs rock. They are my favorite thing. Potter made a comment on I could have liked it 100%. You made a comment. And Janelle, not if this is true, but I haven't heard it. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. The channel's gone, so we can just be happy. We had a pug until she was 17. She was my husband's second wife. We're thinking about finding another one at a rescue. Oh, okay, Miley. Kathy said she sent me. All right, let me check my email then. JB. Oh, my mouse. I haven't figured out my mouse situation yet. Hold on. Okay. Okay, well, first of all, yeah, that's a totally okay. That's not a confession. That's just that's a jerk. That's a jerk, just capitalizing on the thing. See, what somebody else said is that, no, this actual screen name, the one I mentioned before, went into a live and admitted that they did that. This, I think this is just someone trying to make, this is just, yeah. Okay, yeah, they got, wow, 800 views in a few hours? That's incredulous. It's someone that knows nothing about YouTube either. So it's just, it would never be anyone like that. They would know 100%. Not worried about it. Okay. That's not what I'm... It's the actual name of the person. But I can't find anybody that's seen it. So I don't know if someone maybe was pulling someone's leg. And let's see here. So Tamara sent in her tree without an angel and a bow on top. Wow. Tamara was the one that, if I'm right, that sent in that other house picture that looked like it was like a lobby. Wow, look at that huge... hold on, I can't get my mouse over there. Oh, come on. Okay. Look at this huge snowman face. Is that glass? Wow. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, you just love to... oh my gosh, you've got the bow going down. You must... I know you said your kids are older. And wow, that's really nice. Very nice. Good job. Okay, and I'll show you while I'm here, I'll show you Barbara's oh, thanks, Adrian. I just got your, just got to open your email. Thanks. Okay. Trying to find Barbara's. Barbara, I saw it. I responded. Oh, let's see. What is this one? Okay, so our school does a Tessa O'Reilly. Okay, let's see what we got here. Tessa. Our school does a competition of sorts for classroom door decorating throughout the year. Our classroom has 2 doors. We just finished them today. Oh, so this is your contest? Okay, this is Tessa O. Let's see, this is Tessa's contest. So that's 1 door. Somebody crocheted that tree, it looks like. Or is that macrame? Macrame, right? Very nice. Are the kids pulling on it all the time? Oh, it's on the outside. Well, when they come in and out, but hopefully not. And then you've got, let's see. That one, how do you get to the door? That looks a little scary to get to the doorknob, right? I hope it doesn't get messed up too much. But it is cute. Unless it's like just in an office. It might just be in an office. It looks like it might be an office door and not a classroom door. I don't know. Okay, I think too much about this, as you can see. Thanks, Tessa. Okay. Now, okay, is this? All right, so, well, now, Little Dove, you sent me something I'm just looking at now. Hang on. Oh, I saw, is that the one I just, yeah, that was the one I just mentioned, right? Is there another one? Let me see. Oh, okay, yeah, you sent me that. Yeah, okay, now, yeah, Little Dove sent me that one. But again, that's that gray one. But this other thing that somebody mentioned was in an actual live. Now, Eric, what is Eric saying? Not sure how a fourth kid by Oma hasn't been seen or heard from or even mentioned. She has a high reputation score. Oh, so you think it's another child? I don't know. Wouldn't she be fighting over the will with the others? Could she be a spouse? Could she be an ex-spouse of the brother, Eric? Can you put a reset button on the end on the mouse? Jeannie, it's not that. It's the way that it goes to the other monitor. It's not going side to side, but it's going up and down. I almost have to change a setting, someone said, but thanks. Okay, now I'm trying to find Barbara's thing, and of course... Oh, I found it. Okay. Alicia, I sent you my address twice. Let me know if you got it this time. Okay, so Barbara said, I scented my rice with Christmas Spirit essential oil. Nice. The middle one reminds me of Kenny from South Park. And I love the Santa hat on his mom. It was a Dollar Tree kid sock as well. XO, Barbara. Okay, so these are Barbara's. Aren't they cute? The guy does look like the one in South Park, doesn't he? I love everybody's ideas, how they go and then they do something. It's so cute. Look at the little Santa hat. This one actually looks like, almost like the South Park too, like all the way up with the, but then the other one really looks, I think she must like South Park. Very cute though, Barbara. Okay, and hold on a second. I don't know. I want to see why my thing is not. Hold on. Right there. I think I. That's my feet again. So before anybody says anything, oh my gosh, no, that's my feet. They're whatchamacallit, going up against the plastic of the foot spa, and they make a sound like a squeaky sound. And that's my finger pushing the buttons and rubbing across that. Okay, let me see here. Where's my thing? What did it? I must have, I think I tripped like the overflow thing, and it doesn't like me, and I'm trying to shut it off for a second. Okay. All right, I fixed it. Okay. All right, never mind. Let's see. Come back here. Hold on, let me get back to the chat. It's no worries about the other thing. We'll find out if it was them or not. I'm not going to give them any more troll time. Memory of unheathing tree limbs. Oh, the foot's oak. Okay, somebody's messaging me or something. Hold on a minute. Let me take a look. Hang on, somebody's sending me. He has a stalker and a harassment. You should have addressed this immediately. Who would have the distorted thought process to do something so disturbing? I hope the name of the person is exposed. Okay, yeah, I guess that's just, all right. So, Nancy Santos, Dodo doesn't. First time here, Dodo doesn't. Hi, Dee Dee. You have an essential oil treatment on your hair? Your massage therapist applied it? Really? Your massage therapist applied it? What kind of oil treatment do you have on your hair? Shug? Trotter? How you doing, Shug? Is Eric here tonight? Okay, so let's see what, I love your new Christmas. Oh, okay, you love that new. Yeah, this has lights in it. I put flowers. I did do crafting today. I did, then I eventually did it. I never got to finish. And I'm gonna have a video. It'll show you how I switched out the flowers. VO5. How I switched out the flowers in the Mama Ames milk jug thing that we made. So I switched them to Christmas. Then I took this as the one that I got at Michael's for half price. It's lit, but you can't see it, but it looks like a bag. And I wanted one of those that looked like a bag so I could put flowers in it. So it has a light. You probably can't see the light well, but it says Merry Christmas, okay? And so I put flowers in that. So I did do some crafting after. Knits. Oh my gosh, no. Who's got knits? Who said knits? Leisha, we do coconut oil. Can I recommend a product that I ordered and it's awesome? Sure. Sure. You're working on a wall hanging? Oh, macrame? Just caught Desi in action? You did? You just saw Desi? Mr. Pinkle? Where?
Desi's sleeping.
Oh, Desi's sleeping, Jimmy said. Okay, I have to turn the heat down a sec on this. It's getting too hot. Hang on. Okay. Sent me an email of the ribbon project. Okay. I'll look at that in a sec. Oh, video. Gotcha. Anyone at the chemist who wants... Oh, you move away very quickly. Yeah, right, Judy. Yeah, that's okay. You're doing crafts this afternoon with your family, so not going to be late night. Oh, you have to go. Don't worry. Don't worry, Janelle. You could always watch it on a replay. It's okay if you have to. It's fine. We'll miss you, but you have to get some rest. I'm not going to be that late. No, we're going to probably listen to some Sievers stuff. I don't know if there'll be some stuff to listen to because I'm going to go show the pictures. It's just a Friday night. All right, let's see. Okay, here's Apples Snapples. Not my best work, but I've been sick. This is your ribbon project. How large is that? A large like wall hanging? What is the video of? I get nervous, like I have to preview videos because I get nervous because we're live and we could get real big trouble if something happens. But very nice. I'll review the video, and if I can play it. Let me see. Hold on. Now my mouse is. Let's go, mouse. Come on, mouse. Be good, mouse. So teacup. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, teacup. All right. Now my wall tree. Okay, this is Robin's wall tree. Is that flat against? It doesn't look like it's flat against the wall. How do you have it? Is that an optical illusion? Is that, no, maybe it is flat against the wall. That is so weird. It looks like it's not flat against the wall. Very cute. Okay, let me see. Now see, now Janelle had mentioned tired and everything, and all of a sudden I'm yawning. Okay, Evelyn would like to know if you've ever seen an elephant ear plant with bigger elephant ears. Oh my gosh, I'm going crazy with this mouse, Those are some big elephant ears, Evelyn. Those are the biggest elephant ears I have ever seen. But that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Okay, so Tanya said, these are pictures of my messy house. These are pictures for show and tell. Enjoy the mess, everyone. Oh, so you're decorating? That's what happens when you start decorating, right? It's like a bomb went off. Could be worse. Could be much worse. I got one of those baskets like that. It reminds me I have something like that, or maybe I was going to. Sometimes I forget what I have. They don't care about your messy house, right? Nope. Not at all. Very cute, thanks. Okay, let me get over here. Now, Linda, you said when I go to your YouTube page, it says subscribe. I'm already subscribed. Well, if you're seeing subscribe, you're not. So just subscribe again. Nothing's going to happen. Yeah, Linda, just subscribe again. Choking on ashes. Okay, I'll check that out, that video. I'm really behind on emails. All right, let me get back. Let's go. Let me go and see what we can do with Sievers, because we have to get ready for a penalty phase. So let's see what we have. Where is my discovery? Okay. Oh boy, let's see. All right, let's see what we have. Good. Statements, transcripts. Okay, so we've got Taylor, Mark, Ed, we've gone through. Carrie Mertz should be a good one to look at her transcript, because she is the one, let me just see, that they were a family member, and hang on, hold on, let me go through this Mertz one, because they were where the garage was, where Curtis and Andy. Curtis, where did I get Andy? Angie had their car. Okay, so this is Lee County Sheriff's, let's see, Mike Downs again. And this was on what date? July 13th. Okay, and Carrie Mertz was born on April 26, 1977. Okay, all right. So, get to where Miss Mertz, you know, he goes through the whole thing. You recognize me as blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then he says, thank you. Okay, do you mind if I call you Carrie? She says, no, it's fine. Mike says, okay. Obviously, during investigation, the reason I came out here is because I was speaking with your mother, Kathy. Is Kathy your mother? Oh, wow. Kathy. Oh, my gosh. Kathy is Carrie Mertz's mom. How is that? Then why was Ed acting like... This is so strange. This case gets stranger and stranger. That means it would be Angie's sister. That's not what, okay, that's weird. Did she say that before? I don't know. Let's not worry about it. This is weird. Yes, she is. Okay. And her and Ed had provided, her husband, Ed, had provided me with the address of your shop, saying that a gentleman named Curtis Wright, like he doesn't know the guy's name, had enlisted your services to do some, what I assume is mechanical work. And Carrie says some body work. And Mike says, okay, and this is Merch's Auto Body Company? Correct. Okay. Do you know the circumstances surrounding the why he needed the work? Was it an accident or was it a general engine failure? Anything like that? She says, Angie rear-ended a vehicle and caused some front end damage. Okay, Mike says. And Carrie says, and so we're going to repair her vehicle or his vehicle. And Mike says, okay. And do you remember when he brought the vehicle in? Or let me put it this way. The paperwork that you provide me regarding the service of this vehicle, does that reflect the accurate dates of when he dropped the vehicle off and your estimate thereafter? Yes. Okay. And in around June 26th, 2015, the vehicle was at your shop. Is that correct? She says, correct. And then Mike says, and just preliminary speaking, Curtis wound up renting a vehicle from Enterprise right down the street? Correct. Okay, and you had personal knowledge of this, obviously. Yes, I did, she says. Okay, did you assist in the rental, or did you direct over there? Is that something that the insurance sets up, or how does that work? She says he doesn't have rental on his policy. Okay, and so I did assist in getting the rental taken care of, she said. Got it. Now, what does she mean by taken care of? She did something and got it taken care of, like so he didn't have to pay for it? She said, oh no, here she's going to explain. I called down to Enterprise to make sure that there would be a rental car readily available for him. Okay. When he needed it, and then he was going to get a better rate going through, he was going to get the State Farm, oh, is that like their, she says, rate. He says rates were lower than, she says, than the rates I could get. Okay. So I didn't. I just made sure that the rental car was available and he was going to get it for those rates. Mike says, okay, no problem. And just for the sake of the record, I just want to document that you provided me with the your estimate paperwork and the time that he came in and things like that. And she said, yes, I did. And then Mike said, okay, just while you were speaking, and I have some general questions, being that you're Angie's sister and you have some knowledge about what's going on. Do you know anything personally about learning that Mr. Wright had gone to Florida the weekend of June 26th, in between June 26th and June 30th? She says, I actually do not have any information on that. And he says, okay. She says, I knew that he was leaving town, and that's why he needed the rental car. But honestly, I didn't even realize he was going to Florida. And Mike says, okay, so you, at the date that he came in here to get the work done, he did say that he was going out of town, though? And she says, he said he was going to get a rental car, but he wasn't going to need it until Thursday. Okay, and why not until Thursday? I guess that's when he's going to be needing it to leave town. Okay, but he didn't say where he was going? She said, I didn't personally ask. Okay, Mike said. Carrie says, and so I didn't know. He kind of, he travels from time to time, to my best knowledge. Okay, Mike says, She says, and so I just didn't ask too many questions. We were just more concerned about getting his car fixed. Yeah, getting the car and getting his car fixed. Yeah, she says. And things like that? Yeah, she said. Do you know somebody had mentioned something about a reaction of finding out about the doctor that was killed in Florida, something about the reaction when Curtis found out about that. Did you witness anything close to that or no? No, I didn't talk to, I'm sorry, I call him Wayne. Uh-huh. And we can call him Wayne for the sake of the record. Everybody else does. She says, I don't think I talked to him until several days after. I honestly don't. I don't even know if I talked to him until he was on his way back home from Florida after the funeral. Okay. And you don't know anything about his personal life or anything of that nature, correct? No, I haven't. I don't know him well enough. Okay. I mean, I know him only through Angie. Yeah. Okay. She says, yeah, again. Now Mike says, so other than just for the sake of the record and for the sake of our conversations, your only personal dealings with Curtis Wainwright, is that when he came in here sometime in late June, mid to late June, he needed some body work done, and you assisted him with finding an appropriate rental car while you guys were doing the work. And he mentioned that he was going out of town, but he did not say where he was going, and you don't know where he went after that. And she says, to the best of my knowledge, yes. I don't remember him ever telling me where he was going. Okay, great, Mike says. She says, but I don't remember asking him either. Okay, and I know his vehicle was ready to be picked up on, it looks like the 30th, 29th, 30th. And she says, I know it was going to be ready for him on a Tuesday. That Tuesday? Yeah, it was, okay, which would have been around the time frame, the 30th, she says 4th of July. Okay, yeah, the week before 4th of July, and he did not pick the vehicle up? No, he did not. Is it still here today? Yes, it is. Okay, and do you know why he didn't pick it up? Because they had to leave for Florida to go to the funeral. Okay, and since he's returned home, they haven't made any attempts to pick up the vehicle or anything like that? He called me on a Saturday. No, it could have been Friday night. Okay, Mike said. And said, he asked if his car was ready, and I said yes. And I said, would you like to get your car in the morning? And he said, well, it's been a long ride, so we'll probably sleep in tomorrow. And that he has his rental car until Tuesday, and he probably wouldn't be on Monday to pick up his car. Okay. And she says Monday or Tuesday to pick up his car, but he was in no hurry to get it this weekend. Gotcha. He was verifying the vehicle was ready. And Mike says, okay, and does that pretty much conclude your involvement in everything that we talked about today and your personal knowledge of anything that happened in this investigation? And she says, I believe so. And he says, okay, we're going to go ahead and conclude that at 9:52. So that's I didn't realize that Carrie, I knew she was a family member. I did not realize she was Angie's sister. Don't know if you did, or that she was Kathy's daughter. I want to find the aunt. I'd like to find the aunt that, what's his name, dated. Let me see who else could be rumbling around in this discovery. Okay. Carrie Kane. That would be weird to have another. Let's just see who she is. Okay, this is somebody that was suspicious. Let me see. It says Mark. I don't know who. Let me see. All right, let's. This sounds pretty good. So this was on October 14th. Okay. Carrie was born on June 10th, 1969. Okay. Oh, excuse me. I am so sorry. This was not October. This was August 24th. Okay. So it's Mike Downs. Okay. He's going to... We've been speaking over the course of a month and a half. She says, yes, a month. He says, since June. There you go. There's my badge, just in case you're curious. Okay. And then he's got to do all the swearing in. He says, and you agreed to contact us, and this was Tuesday, July 28th at approximately 8:22. Is that correct? She said, that's correct. Okay, and this is just kind of in your own words. Tell us, why did you start contacting us regarding this? And she said, it started Sunday evening of the month of the anniversary of her death. Okay. And she says, Mark had told me that tips were dwindling. It really bothered me, and I decided that I can't make him guilty. I can only say what I know, and if he's guilty, it's not because of me. And Mike Downs says, uh-huh. And she says, so I felt like I will say what I know in a journaling format on this Crime Stoppers, and just let it be. And that's what I did. And I felt I hadn't been sleeping at all for 4 weeks, maybe 4 hours a night, 5 hours tops. It's like me. I was very, very stressed out because I felt that there was inconsistencies with my friend, and it really bothered me. And in my mind, I could not rule him out. I felt like something was wrong. And so once I found out that Wayne had his door broken into, and then you guys went there, I thought you had to have something, some sort of evidence to direct you there. And so I started thinking back on everything that transpired on my few days down in Florida. And so that evening, that Sunday evening, I decided to contact Crime Stoppers and let it be. And Mike Downs says, and this was to, and clearly that's what it looks like to me, that this was purely out of concern that you were remembering back to some inconsistencies. And she says, yes. And he says, and some things that didn't add up. And she says, and my gut. And would it be safe to say that you grew a little bit suspicious of Mark Sievers at that point? She says, I was a little suspicious. And then Mike says, or of the story. And she says, by the time I was at Jarvis Road, and that was the last day that I was there, and frankly, by the time I left that house, I couldn't wait to get out of there. And Mike Downs says, okay. And she says, but when he told me a little bit about Kenny, the ex-husband, I eagerly wanted to think that there was something else that was more likely because I didn't want to believe it was him. Mike Downs says, okay. And she says, he says, all right, I just wanted to confirm that you came to us, that you weren't promised anything in any way by anyone, and you were, and she says, no, doing this, and you're not getting anything as a result of it. She says, nothing. For talking to us. No. And then Mike says, could you just start at the beginning and kind of let me know everything that happened from the time that Teresa passed away, from the time that you came down there and why you came down there, how you contacted Mark, and pretty much everything you noticed that didn't add up leading up to speaking to us now. She says, yes. And he says, and take your time, there's no rush. And she said, okay. It was a Tuesday evening. I logged into Facebook, and there was a post by Gloria, an old friend of ours, mutually to Mark as well. And she had posted on there that there had been a home invasion and that Teresa was murdered. And I screamed, and I didn't want to believe it was true. And then she had private messaged me as well, and asked if I knew anything. And I said, no, And this was on a Tuesday. And then I saw on Facebook that Wayne had made a post that he and his wife were going to be there for the girls, and they were driving down, and they were on their way. I'm sorry, my mouth is getting dry. No, take your time. Just for the record, I just want to confirm when you say Mark, you're referring to Mark Sievers. She says, yes. And when you say Wayne, you're referring to Curtis Wayne. Yes. Right. Correct. That is correct, she said. Okay. And if I flip their names, it's unintentional. That's what Carrie says. She said, for some reason, my brain will flip them. And Mike says, it happens. And she says, I don't know why. He says, no, I understand. If I catch it, I'll let you know. She says, yes, thank you. Curtis Wainwright you call him Wayne. Just for the record, because his name is actually Curtis, I just wanted to, she says, yes. He says, okay. She says, Wayne to me, but it's Curtis Wainwright legally. Junior, I think. And anyway, he put a post on Facebook. So at this point, I know he's on his way down. Gloria had told me that she tried to contact Mark, and his voicemail is full. She can't get a hold of him, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I know he can't call me. I mean, when it supposedly transpired to the date that I found out, I'm like, he's so inundated with everything. Mike Down says, and she says, there's no possible way he could call me. I totally understand that, but I told my husband, I said, I need to go down there. Whenever I know arrangements, I have to be there for him. Mark has always been there for me, and we've been friends for over 30 years. And so anyway, I decided I was going to fly down. And in the meantime, I contact Wayne on Facebook. We were already friends, but we had not really talked. So Mike Down says, yeah, you just weren't up to date on. Yeah, we really weren't communicating at all for a good 10 years. Okay, a good 10 years, she says, but we did come in contact with each other then because I knew he was going to be there. And I thought maybe he could tell me more. You know, I have Facebook messages I sent him. Yeah, you know that. What happened? Oh my God. But anyway, he never really, he said nobody knows, that kind of thing. But before I flew down there, I did talk to Mark one time. Okay, by phone, and it was brief. He was crying on the phone. He was sobbing, I would say. At the end of the conversation, I said, I just don't know how this could happen. I said to him, I want the person found, and I want them hung. And I meant it. And he said to me, Teresa would say, forgive them. I said, well, she's a much better person than me. Mike said, yeah. And then she said, well, then I said, I just don't know how this could happen. I said, you guys have an alarm system. I mean, I don't understand. And then he said, that's just it, Carrie. The alarm wasn't working. And then he said, but I have to go now. That was it. Really? Mike Down says. And she says, that's when he cut the conversation off right then and there. Okay. She says, yeah. He says, so then you made travel arrangements? I did. And now you come down to Florida, right? Correct. All right, now what happens when you get to Florida? I get to Florida and my hotel room was not ready. And so I contact Wayne and I tell him I landed. My room is not ready. What's going on? And he said, well, we're all meeting over at Bonnie's. And in the meantime, he had given me her address so I could find a hotel near, yeah. And then Carrie says, in the home and everything. So, okay, what time? He said, we're all going to meet here at 1. But Mark has something to do at 2, from 2 to 4. I said, okay, that works out well. My room is not ready. So, and it had been the 4th of July weekend before, so the hotel had not been booked. And there wasn't, so the hotel, had been booked, and there wasn't, and everything had to be clean. So they didn't have a room. So that was fine. I typed in my little GPS. It was a new GPS that I had, where his mother lived, and it brought me there, and I get there. And I walk up, and I knock on the door, and a woman answers, and she says, excuse me, who are you? And I said, oh, I'm Carrie. I'm Mark's friend. And, oh, well, we're having a family meeting right now, and we're not to be disturbed. Can you wait outside? And Mike's got a lot of sarcasm. That was kind of her. She says, yeah, she was kind, but she was no. And now he's got to say it. I meant it in a sarcastic way. He actually says that to her. She says, oh, okay. Well, I said, well, no problem. That's fine. I'll stand outside, you know. She goes, and a neighbor is bringing us groceries. Can you intercede and hold the groceries until after the family meeting? It should be about 20 minutes. I said, no problem. My mind is turning, and I'm going, oh, they're telling the family who did it. You know, this is, and Mike says, yeah. And she says, that's my thinking. And he goes, sure. And she says, I'll pull Wayne and his wife, and he has told me, oh, my wife is so excited to meet you. Well, he pulls up smiling and waving, and she looks at me like, and Mike goes, like instantly is like, oh, this isn't going to be good. So they get out of the car. Wayne hugs me. He introduces me to her and Angela. And I said, they're having a family meeting in there. We're not to disturb them. And I said, I think they're telling them what happened and who did it. And when I think back on that, his look was like, huh? You know, he just looked down. He didn't say, really? And Mike says, oh, really? Just totally no emotion? She says, just like, yeah, huh? Like, I know that's not possible. You know what I'm saying? And Mike says, yeah, I got you. And she says, now when I look back on it, anyway, you know what I'm saying. And he says, yes, ma'am. Oh, no, excuse me. LeBold comes in now, and he says, yes, ma'am. He somehow got in here. Didn't. Mike says, I mean, if it was me, I would go, really? Oh, you know? And LeBold says, you would emote. You would do something. And Carrie says, Carrie says, neither one of them did. And LeBold says, uh-huh. And then Carrie says, so I'm a little concerned about her when I reflect back on it. And Mike says, yeah. And then Carrie says, you know what I'm saying? Mike says, yeah. And LeBold says, uh-huh. So then Carrie says, so anyway, we go in after, well, the groceries come. I put them in my car. I let it run because it's hot in Florida. And Mike says, yeah, to say the least. And then she says, anyway, if this is too much detail, you just let me know. No, he says. But anyway, this is how I think. Please continue, he said. So anyway, I pull the groceries out. When everybody adjourns, they come out. I look at Mark. I want to see how he's doing. I'm looking at his expression. He looks fine, okay? So this is the first time I see Mark when I'm down. He looks fine, and he's hugging people. And I think it was Teresa's family, like maybe her sister, maybe the brother. They were all leaving. And so I wait with the groceries, and he comes up to me, and he does hug me. And I said, how are you? I said, I know I shouldn't even ask, how are you? You know, I'm hugging him, and he's like, I'm okay. He said, we just told the girls their mommy was murdered. I said, oh, okay. I said, and then he goes, we just told them, you know, there's bad people in the world, and bad people do bad things, you know. I'm like, that's it? And Mike says, yeah. And then she says, I don't know. I was just like, they're supposed to, well, you know, 11 and 7 or 8. And Mike says, yeah, I guess that's all you would tell them. She says, I don't know, but it was just weird. It was just like matter of fact. Yeah. Just like Mike saying this. Yeah, it's done. We did it. Yeah, it's like, and now we're going to, and she says, yeah, I just kind of probably blinked a few times, you know? He says, yeah. Then she says, okay. He says, sure. And then she said, so then we go in, and we're in there. But 2 o'clock rolls around. He's got to go. He's got to meet someone. Now, if you want me to reference names, it's like in Facebook. I can't remember, but I believe the woman was Michelle. Okay? This was a dear friend, my understanding. a dear friend of Teresa's, okay, who her husband was the one that actually found her deceased. So this must be Botrytis' wife. Okay. And Carrie says, okay. And he said, that would be Mark Botrytis. Does that ring a bell? Yes. Okay. Michelle and Mark? And she says, yeah. And so it's, well, I could go into what he told me happened with that. But so anyway, he had to leave. And the girls, they're all going to go to the beach together. I'm like, okay, you know, he pulls me aside. He tells me this is Teresa's good friend. She started law school the very first day Teresa was murdered. Now she wants to quit. And, you know, I just have to talk to her about this. This is just, you know, she can't quit. And he's just so concerned about Michelle and her schooling. And I'm like, and he goes, yeah, given light of given light of everything, that should have been the last thing. She goes, I'm just thinking, Michelle will be okay. You and your girls and family are here from out of town. I don't care about me, but all these people are in here to support him, and he's got to go to the beach. Okay, fine. And Mike says, and you're going to the beach, yeah? And she says, yeah, with a local woman. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, you know what I'm saying. And he says, yeah. And so then she says, so it still didn't bother me too much. I go to my hotel room because Wayne and his wife want to go to the beach. And they asked me to go, and I said, no. I'm going to check into my hotel now. My room should be ready. And I go, and I'm starving. I go and I eat at the Boathouse restaurant, and I eat. And it's starting to get late at this time. And I'm like, oh gosh, what am I supposed to do? What time are we supposed to be back? So the idea was we were supposed to meet back for dinner. At Bonnie's. And Melanie's. And so I don't hear from them. So I'm thinking, okay. And I call Wayne, and Wayne is like, well, that's the thing. Mark is not back yet. I'm like, he's not back yet? No, he's not back yet. I'm like, well, then I'm going to have to take my shower and just get prepared to come over. So I knew it had to be between 7:30 and 8 before he got back from the beach. And he was only supposed to be gone about 2 hours, Mike says. She says 2 to 4. And Mike says, yeah. So, and she says, yeah, from 2 to 4. Mike says, yeah. And then he comes back. And you said he looked like he had sunburn and he was kind of parched. And she says, oh, he was. His face was deeply red. Mike says, yeah. And she says, so he had been out there. The girls had their suits, and, you know, they come in. And then we spend the evening there. His Uncle Henry was there, and I like his Uncle Henry and his Aunt Judy and his sister Jamie from Missouri, who has anorexia or bulimia or something severe. I mean, she's a severe case. And for her to travel, it takes like enormous effort. And it's my understanding she missed like 3 flights to get there. And Mike says, because of her condition? And she says, yeah, she can't like stay focused. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, you know, she has this eating disorder. So Mike says, okay. And she says, but she does arrive, and she's there for her brother. And but here's Wayne and his wife who are staying there, which I don't get, okay? I'm like, okay, maybe they don't have money. But it comes down to Jamie needing a place to stay. Oh, Jamie can't stay here. We don't have any room. Now I was thinking, you guys are so rude. And this is Bonnie's daughter, correct? Yeah. And Mark's sister? Yes. So Bonnie has room for Wayne and Angie? Yes. But not for her own daughter? Correct. Who she knows to have a basic disability? And Carrie says, yes. It took everything in her to get there. No, she can't stay. And Mike says, and they made her go to a hotel, I assume? Or no, she went to stay with, what's the woman's name? So his dad was married, but I can't remember her name. Mike says, no big deal. So it would have been her stepmom. Okay, his stepmom. But you thought it was odd that Wayne and Angie are, yeah, I thought it was rude. Welcomed with open arms, this Mike loves, but yeah, I thought it was rude. Turn away your own daughter, Mike says, yeah. And Carrie says, I thought it was rude. Mike says, yeah. Carrie says, I was very put out by it. I was like, this is like a three-ring circus here. Mike says, uh-huh. And then Carrie says, the beach, the woman in the... Anyway, that was only really, I mean, that was just touching on it. The little girls are amazingly smart. They played cards. They played on Angela's phone a lot, playing Candy Crush. They, just the way they articulate things, they're brilliant. Brilliant girls. I hope I'm not forgetting anything, but you can ask. No, you're right on track. Okay, so things were winding down. I can see Melanie, Bonnie's partner, getting anxious. They're tired. The next day is the funeral, and it's been a lot of commotion. Plus, I think that day was the day they were going to go to the funeral home for the viewing. Okay, Mike says, prior to the family meeting, and I think that prompted the family meeting because they didn't want the girls to hear that their mother was murdered. At the funeral the next day. So you have the funeral home, you have, the gatherings, the family meeting, the regathering, so they're tired. So I'm ready to go, but Mark agreed to meet me. So we sat on the sofa, we talked for a little bit. Wayne did bring up the Bolin family that night. Remember the Bolin family? They said that Curtis might be connected to that, the missing brother. Okay, this case, I'm telling you, this case, every time I open something else, I can't believe this case was not bigger. I think a lot of people don't even know what is in this case. It is a crazy case. The interviews are so, I don't know, to me they're very interesting. I can't see the chat, so I don't know what but okay, so she brought up the Bolin family that night, which I thought was weird. So Mike says, oh, he did? She says, okay, I did miss something. I asked Wayne how he got to Florida. He said they drove. Now you see, I don't want to forget that part. But he said Angie did the driving because he was too tired. And she drove straight through. And he said his car was in the shop because of a mishap that she had. But she doesn't elaborate what the mishap was. Yeah, Mike says. She's standing there. She says nothing. She looks at him. His car is in the shop from a mishap. But he alluded to he had been gone over the weekend, or that he had done a job over the weekend, and he did a lot of driving over something to that effect. That he could not drive to Florida. She did the driving. Mike says, did he ever make mention that he was homesick the entire weekend or anything like that? Or no, she said. Okay. So then she says, no, in my mind, he said he went somewhere, but I can't recall it. Mike says, it's okay, that's fine. So now, once you talked to Mark, did he say anything else that was, or I'm sorry, not you were talking to Wayne, right? Did he have anything else that was off after that, or no? The only thing was that they were going to be there a while. Mike says. They didn't know when they were leaving. It was very open-ended. We're going to be here a while. Okay. The whole driving, the rental, the car being in the shop, having something to do the prior weekend where he couldn't make that drive. Mike says, And Carrie says, is what all that I can really recall with that. Okay, so now at some point during the night, after you talk to Wayne, you and Mark have a private conversation, right? It's that evening. Mike says, yeah. So people are filing out. It's getting late. It's storming out. It's very dark out in Florida. And we go out to my car. We sit in the car. We tried to have a private conversation. And he says to me, do you want to know what happened to her? And I felt like a bobblehead. Mike says, yeah. And she says, I wanted to know. This inquisitive mind of mine wanted to know. But I was like, you know. Mike said, yeah, should I? Yeah, I was like, yeah, is this the right time? So I was almost scared to know. It was creepy. But I wanted to know. Mike says. I did want to know. And so he tells me that she was bludgeoned to death. He did not say with what. He said, and he goes, you want to hear this? She was hit on the back of the head 17 times. And that's exactly how he did it. And I'll never forget that. And then Labid says, it's hard to hear stuff like that. You're doing a good job. Take your time. Mike says, yeah, take your time. And then Labid says, take your time. There's no rush at all. No rush at all. Gather yourself. Take your time. Down says, did he have any emotion when he said that? Or was he... that's how he said it. Yeah. 17 times. So that was his emotion. But there were no tears. Mike says, no tears or anything? No. And then he said, the person, I said, he goes, she likely died, I was told. And I thought he said that the coroner told him that she likely died on the second blow, he says. I later referred back to that. And he said the funeral director told me. Okay, Mike says. And she says, okay, so I thought he said the coroner told him. Mike says, She says, okay, so I don't know if I'm wrong or I don't remember correctly. Got you. But he clarified later then that it was the funeral director that told him that. Okay. And he then tells me that there were no fingerprints found in his house anywhere. I just remember thinking, how do you know that? Mike says, yeah, exactly, especially if it's only a couple of days later. And she says, the crime scene, this is Sunday. Mike says, now all of a sudden he knows. I like this guy, Mike. He's like really, now all of a sudden he knows that he is really getting her to open up with him. And she says, crime scene was taken down Friday. Mike says. And she goes, who's telling him that? And Mike says, I can tell you that we didn't tell him that. She says, at that point, he already has an attorney. Mike says, And she says, he does already. And he goes, yeah. And she said, he tells me that. And then he kind of goes into that a little bit. And they interviewed me for 2 days, 2 separate days. He didn't say all day, maybe 4 hours, maybe 2 hours. I can't remember exactly how long. He said that they showed him pictures. He said you guys wanted to take and download his phone. And he said, I'm not comfortable with that. And he said, I've always been told that if you're not comfortable with something, you should just say so. And I'm saying so. It was, I was thinking, just give the phone. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, and he's like, well, they told me they'll confiscate my phone. So I gave it to them. Well, that's when he opened up about the whole bag of worms with these women. And I guess he didn't like that. Mike says, He didn't like how it made him appear. He goes, then they're gonna think it's all this love triangle shite and stuff like that. And and Mike says, you're talking about the other women that he was having sexual relations with. She says, yeah, yes. Mike says, okay. She says, because he led me to believe there was stuff on his phone from that. Mike says, yeah. She says, even as of up to 5 years ago. Mike says, And she said, this is what he says to me. So I don't know how in depth, how many women he was with, but I know specifically one. And Mike says, She says, and then I let him have it. This is when he first told me about their lifestyle. And I really let him have it. And because I did that, he never told me anything else. So this would be the first time he's talked to me about it. And then Mike said, She said, since 2 years ago when I gave him a mouthful. Okay? And he said, well, what did he say 2 years ago? And she said, well, 2 years ago, he tells me that he was getting involved in some soft swinging kind of thing. Never another man. He made that very clear, never another man. But it would be a friend of Teresa's. So this woman that I specifically named, which I couldn't, and she says, even tell you her name. I'd have to look up no, that's fine, I have it. Okay. She was a friend of Teresa's, and he kind of let me, and this is the thing, texting can't capture. That's why talking to me more comes out really, yeah, that's what I wanted to know, Mike says, because come talk to you. And she says, it's so hard. I hurt my arm texting so much. Mike says, I know, yeah, you're going to get carpal tunnel. And she says, I know. But he said that Teresa wanted him to be, I guess, more fulfilled. She didn't feel like she could meet his needs fully. He told me he has to have sex several times a day. He told me that. And Mike says, okay. And she says, it was like, I don't know if it was like some fantasy or fantasy started turning into reality. He says, okay. She says, I'm not really sure how this happened, but he led me to believe that Teresa supported this, that Teresa wanted, I don't know if it's a video, but pictures, something to show her evidence that and then Mike says that he was actually doing this. And she goes, yeah, yes. And he says, okay. And she goes, and I was like, what? And I literally had to pull over. I pulled over at a restaurant. I was driving. I got myself, I drank probably 2 glasses of wine listening to him. I listened to him. I try not to condemn him, but then I told him, you're going to get divorced. This is not going to end good. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, I can see in your future, you have 2 girls, and you don't want those girls to think badly of you. And this could all come out, and this is wrong. But it's not cheating. In his head, it's not cheating. It's the most bizarre thing. I'm like, it's cheating. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, it's cheating, okay? But no, Teresa's fine with it. Then he kind of goes into, I think the woman lived in Orlando. He said he went to see her and he took the girls. She posts on Facebook to Teresa's pages something about the best play date ever. I'm like, this is sick. Unbelievable, but true. Anyway, so I don't know how often he saw that woman, but what I did notice is after Teresa died and people are putting their condolences on Facebook and everything, she posts a picture of her son and the 2 girls. And now I'm sorry about your loss. Nothing. She goes, not I'm sorry about your loss. Nothing. And Mike says, yeah. And she goes, I thought that was weird. And he goes, that is strange. And she says, uh-huh. And he says, yes. And then she says, like reminding him. And then I opened it up. And then you pop open the picture. And because she reshared it, she had put on there something like, I miss my mermaids, or I love my mermaids, referring to the girls. Uh-huh, Mike says. And she says, my. And he says, uh-huh. And she says, I'm like, that's interesting. And he goes, yeah, it is. It's a little off. And she goes, I thought it was. It was like she's a little attached to those girls. Anyway, I don't know about anybody else. And he goes, all right, if you could, I'd like you just to go back to that conversation in the car. And she said, yes. And he says, and the one we left off on. Yeah, sorry. No, that's fine. So he tells me that she was wearing the clothes she flew home in. Uh-huh. Which I know that his friend could have told him this. Mm-hmm. And then she says that found her. He said, I believe he said the office contacted him that morning and wanted to know where Teresa was. And then he tried calling his friend, this guy, and he didn't answer. So he calls his mom, Bonnie, and says, I need you to check on Teresa. You know, she didn't show up for work and I can't get a hold of her. So then he says, I told Mom, don't fix your hair. Just go. So she leaves. But she calls him back and says, can you please just call me back if she does call you in the meantime, and then I can turn around? And he goes, never mind. You don't have to go. I got a hold of the guy. And then Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, so this is the first call to the guy that didn't pick up. The second call, apparently he did. And he went over and he found her deceased. So that's the chain of events that he told me. The other day when I talked to him, he goes, you know how my memory is? I can't even remember who called me or what happened that morning. This is what he says now. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, isn't that weird? And Mike says, that is strange. Now he does. I can't recall anything. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to tell you what you said, but I remember what you said. This guy's a real, he likes to really analyze stuff. Okay, anyway. So he says, yeah, exactly, yeah. And then she says, so that's what he said, what happened that morning. So Bonnie never did go over, but the friend did. But anyway, back to the clothes. So she was wearing a dress. She had her wedding ring on, and then she had her mother's ring on, but I can't recall anything else. And let's see, that the man called him from the home. And he said, where are the girls? And he's screaming in the phone, where are the girls? Where are the girls? And he's like, what? Where are the girls? He goes, they're with me. And then he goes, she's dead. And he screams this. That is what Mark says to me. And Mike says, yeah. And she says with expression, so that's basically what he said about the whole, okay, did that pretty much conclude like your conversation for the time until the funeral? She says, no. Then it went on to the pictures. Well, I could be jumbling things up a little bit. That's fine, Mike says. But this is all in the car. Mike says, yeah, she goes, the conversation. So then he says that you guys showed him some pictures. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, you showed him pictures of a hammer? And he started to cry. And someone says, you, or whoever says, why are you crying? And he says, because my wife has been murdered and you're showing me a picture of a hammer. So, meaning he's assuming she was killed with a hammer. And Mike says, uh-huh. And the person says to him, I didn't say that. It could have been used to pry open a door. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, so this is what he says to me. He asks if he recalls if that's his hammer or what color the handle is or something to that effect. Mike says, mm-hmm. She says, he doesn't recall. And then he says, he argues a little bit about it. Well, I don't know how many hammers. I've got a lot of hammers, he said. They seemed to focus on how many hammers I had. He says, you show him pictures of her luggage in the garage. And he said that her carry-on is there, her purse was there. And he could tell by the inside lining of it, the purse was tipped over, and there was a flight jacket, a jacket that she used in flight, that was draped over it, he said. She would never have put her purse on the ground like that. She has this thing about energy, he said. In her closet, she has a stand, and the purse always has to sit on the stand, he said. If I put it on the floor, she'd curse me out, you know. And I thought, that's believable. And but he said, I don't know why the purse would be sitting there. He goes, to me, it's almost like it was staged. He said that. He then said something to the effect that, well, I don't know, that purse could have been sitting on the cooler and fell over, which to me indicates where he believes the luggage and everything was actually sitting. And then he talked about his mother feeling badly about the alarm. Mike says, she blames herself, is what he said. And he said that she didn't push or activate the button correctly, and that it didn't activate the alarm. And he said, but I feel responsible because I'm the one that showed her how to do it. So he said this in the car. And he said that he had an attorney. And Mike says, did he say why he got an attorney? Did you ask him at that point? Or did that come up later? And she said, well, he said he had people tell him that he really shouldn't have even went there without an attorney, but he was trying to help. Mike said. She says, and then he said he felt like everybody was focused on him. He said he was asked, is Teresa having an affair? And he said no. And they said, are you sure? And he said, well, I can't be sure, but she wouldn't have any reason to. And he said that more than once. She had no reason to. And then Mike said, it's like very matter-of-factly. And she said he would say it like representing himself, like she wouldn't do that. She has no reason to. Mike said, okay. She said, that's how I took it. Like he felt he took care of everything and there would be no reason for her to have the affair. That's how that's how you perceived it. Took it. That's how I perceived it when he said it. Mike said. She said, remind me if I'm forgetting anything because he said, no, you're right on track. As I recall things, I would text it. Yeah, but I didn't write them down, so I hope you kept all my texts. I did. Okay, good. Because I don't know. And in this conversation, basically he said to me, this was the thing. He said about getting hit on the head. He said, I'm kind of going back here. Okay. But we're still in the car. And he says, the thing about her getting hit in the head, I said, well, maybe she didn't even know what happened, So maybe she didn't suffer and she didn't know what happened. I'm trying to comfort him. Yeah, Mike said. She goes, and he says, well, the thing about getting hit in the head is she couldn't fight back. And he goes like this. She couldn't fight back. And he goes, and therefore there would be no DNA. And he mentioned something about her being attacked from behind, Mike said. That's what he said. Yeah. And then he said, the thing about her being attacked, because in the beginning, when he said it, do you want to know what happened to her? He told me she was attacked from behind. He said she was bludgeoned and it was from behind. So he told me that. But then he said, and I said, well, the good thing about that is maybe she didn't know what happened. Maybe, she didn't suffer and didn't see the horror of somebody coming at her, that kind of thing. And then he said, yeah, but the bad thing about being attacked from behind is she couldn't fight and therefore there would be no DNA. And that's what he said. And Mike says, how was his demeanor at this point while he was talking to you? And she says, well, he just isn't broken. I mean, that bothered me the whole time. At the funeral, I started thinking his tears were fake. And it bothered me because I said to myself, I can't think that, but I have this mind that I just perceive things. I'm like, don't think that, but I'm like, that's fake. And then, let's see, that's fake. Mike says, yeah, but you still got to ask the questions. She says, I do. He says, okay, especially in the time you've known him, do you talk about anything else in the car, or does that pretty much sums it all up, correct? And she says, I think it sums it all up. And he says, okay, so now the next day is the funeral, right? Correct. And there, you also made some observations at the funeral that were kind of like you were saying that they were a little bit off. She says, yeah, the funeral, I come in, I thought, he looks sharp. He is well dressed, looking nice. That suit looks really very expensive. Noticed right off the bat, he looks very sharp. I go in and I want to sit up front. I go up and I choose a seat next to the aisle, maybe 3 rows back. Wayne and his wife come in and they sit next to me. At first the wife sits next to me and then it's Wayne. But I just sit there. I'm just kind of like, I'm watching the people file up. Coffin is in front and Mark is in front of the coffin. And he, is accepting people. And this went on for 2 hours and people hugging him and people crying. Oh, Bella, I'm sorry, you can shoo her down. Oh, I guess she had a dog there. And he said, it's okay. And she says, are you allergic? And he goes, I am. And she goes, Bella. And he goes, it's okay. And she says, Bella, And then she goes, this went on for 2 hours, but I thought his crying was phony. It was. And he says, Mark's crying? And she says, uh-huh. And he says, yeah. It was, it just, I don't know. It just didn't seem real to me. And, yeah, and Labid says, did you ever see real tears? Real tears? No. I did see him blow his nose once. Now, we know Mark is famous for that. No tears, but he blows his nose all the time. But did you ever see his face wet? Mike says. No, I didn't. I cried my head off at the funeral. Josie? No, he may have cried with Josie, but I can't say for sure. That's his daughter. I was so focused on Josie's eulogy. It was unbelievable for an 11-year-old. If you ever can imagine a room full of people and hearing people burst into tears, the whole place was doing that. It was so emotional. She read a eulogy. She said their evening prayer, and then she sets her paper down and she says, I want to talk to you about my mama. And oh my God, it was so emotional. Anyway, but he was supposed to talk, see? So everybody who is taking this the most hard gets up there and says this heartfelt, wonderful things about Teresa, anything that they could contribute. And he gets up there and he says, I know I was the luckiest man alive, and I still am. That's all he said. And Mike says, that's all he said? And she says, that's it. I'm like, what? Like, am I missing something here? I'm looking around. Mike says, yeah, you're expecting, that's supposed to be the... And she says, I'm like, how about I'm broken? I don't know how I'm going to go on. Something. That's all he says. And I'm thinking, you still are? When I think back on it, I think, what are you really saying here? We should get her in the group. She's pretty good. You have your girls? You're carrying on? Now, you also said that Wayne has some kind of... Okay, so Wayne, she says, and Mike says, event there? And she says, oh, that was freaky. Well, first off, the slide projector. They had a slideshow of all their pictures. They were magnificent pictures. It wasn't working, so Wayne gets up. He does help them get it all situated. He's a tech guy. He gets it working. And everybody is like, Wayne is a hero. He's our hero. And I was like, good going, Wayne. And these pictures are just magnificent. But later, after the 2-hour funeral, then they're getting ready for the mass. They had it planned where a video would show of her. And I guess maybe when she was going to do the video in Texas. Mike says. And she says, well, where she's interviewing people and they're very proud of her and they want this video to play and it keeps looping. Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa. Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa. Hi, and they can't get it working. So I'm like, Wayne, and he's like, I'm not doing it. And Mike says, really? And she goes, really? He refused to go and make it work. He wouldn't do it. And I'm like, but you did the projector. You got the slides working. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, he will not do the video. He refuses. I thought, what a jerk. This is what I'm thinking. I'm like, the family wants to see this video. Mike says, And she says, but when I look back on it, I think he didn't want to see her alive. That's very possible, Mike says. You got to hear her voice. You have to see her face. Mike says, She says, she's right there. She's in all her glory. She looks beautiful. He didn't want to see it. Pictures are flat. Video is not. He would not help. So they had to skip the video. The video was not seen. Anyway, after the funeral, everybody, they're during a mass, they do this incense over the coffin. They're they literally, before the mass started, the funeral or the coffin was up at the front of the church. They roll it down and they literally start over for the mass. They bring it back up in ceremony, but at the end they have it roll it back down again, and they use the incense. Okay, I kind of missed a part, but anyway, by this time Wayne was at the next. Wayne was sat next to me during the mass. It switched, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But anyway, so I'm near the aisle, and here's Wayne. Here is his wife, and they're doing the incense over the coffin. And as they reach us, he starts gagging. He can't breathe. He's coughing uncontrollably. He runs out of the church, and I'm like, what in the heck? And his wife runs after him, and they don't come back in. So the story goes he had a full-blown asthma attack from the incense. I looked back on it and think, out of everyone in that church, I'm serious. So when the casket started to get close to him, that's what Mike said. When the casket, she goes, it was right there. That's when he runs out, Mike says. Oh, he ran out. He ran out, yes. And supposedly someone there had an inhaler and let him use it. So, and Mike says, but nobody actually saw this. So this is a story that and Carrie says, Mark knows. I don't know. Anybody sat around us probably would know. I mean, his wife would know. She ran after him. He was like, and when I went out there, I mean, he looked like sweat was pouring off of him. Mike said. And he was coughing, like an asthma attack. It's the kitty door. Anyway, so that's what happened. And now that night, Mike's saying this, is there any kind of anything? Do you guys go back anywhere, or is that pretty much it after? She says, could I stop right here and just, sure. And then she goes, I just want to reiterate something. And he says, yeah. And she says, so as we're sitting in the church and his wife had sat next to me, he was trying to whisper something to me about Mark having his gun on him. And I'm going, what? And so he scoots over into the chair so he could whisper it more. And he goes, look at the bulge in his suit. You know, he's carrying his gun. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she said, I go, oh, okay. And you know, he just wanted to reiterate that. Like, yeah, like he was forcing it on you, Mike said. Like, yeah, like and Mike says, yeah, like, look what he's doing. And she says, yeah. Just like, yeah, you know, because you never know, you know? The person could be here kind of thing. And then Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, is what he was reinforcing on me. Gotcha, Mike said. She says, in my opinion, and so the mass starts. And because he's sitting there, when they have everybody hold hands, I had to hold his hand, which I think really ticked off his wife. But anyway, that's so over. And then we all go to the South Fork restaurant after that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Anything notable there, or pretty much? She says, if you had to ask me how to describe them, I thought they acted like two businessmen walking around. That's really how they acted. Really? Mike says. She says, very strange. Like, how so? Mike says. Like, what kind of? She says, like, and he goes, what gave you that vibe? And she said, well, like two undercover detectives would act with a suit on. They acted like businessmen, carrying out the demeanor that seemed not somebody at a funeral, but more of a transaction, a business. That's how they acted to me. Interesting, Mike said. Especially at South Fork, I noticed that. Well, I sat outside next to Henry because I didn't want to sit next to Wayne and his wife. Yeah. And, well, Mark really didn't want to talk to me. He talked to everybody else, but he really didn't want to. You know, I would smile and he would just keep walking, you know, like, okay, well, he's busy. But he really didn't want to talk to me, I felt. And that night, they were going to go back. So the plan was Frank is Teresa's brother. And his girlfriend, they talked about going swimming. I don't know how this came up. Maybe taking the girls swimming, something like that. And Mark kind of mentioned, oh, we can all go back to the house and go swimming tonight. And I'm going, really? And Mike says, yeah. Is that really appropriate at this point? That's Mike. And she says, the house? And then, so he says to Teresa's mom, well, we can go back to the house. And she goes, no, like that. And I'm like, somebody needs to kick you. This woman is. And he goes, oh my gosh, he said that to Teresa's mother? And she says, yeah. And she's like, oh, I can't do that. You know, he's forgetting she's in mourning and that he's in mourning. And then she says, he wants to go back in the house and celebrate. And Mike says, yeah, that's what it sounded like. It's Mike. And then she says, yeah. So I leave. I don't even know if anybody's here. That'd be really embarrassing. I go back and no one's even here anymore. Okay, I leave. Mark, okay, let's see. Wayne and his wife take Mark and the girls back to the house to deliver all the flowers or something. Back to the house. And then they were back there that night. I don't know how long they stayed, but then the next night when I was at the house, I saw swimsuits draped across the chairs, and I got the distinct feeling that they went swimming that night anyway. And then Mike said, so now, the next day you wind up going to the actual house with Mark, right? Yeah. How did you wind up hooking up with, and then going? She goes, he talked about the house, and I said, I'd really like to pray there. And I just felt like, he had mentioned that he may want to stay there. And I said, I feel like the place needs to be prayed upon. And Mike says, And she says, and I said, I would pray there. And he said, well, why don't we meet at the house? I said, okay. I thought it would be hard. It was really hard. It was really, really hard for me. I got there and my plan was to go there and check out of the hotel, go there and then fly out. And that was the plan. And I get to the house and he comes from the backyard out through the gate. And he had been looking through the door. He's so irritated by the door that the door is gone. The door jamb is gone. And it's another one of those things that bothered me. He's so irritated with the investigation. Mike said. And I'm like, that's not normal. I mean, a normal reaction would be anything to help find my wife's murderer. You'd think that the door would be a sign of hope. Yeah. Well, I say to him, well, he said to me back in the car, he said, there were no fingerprints found anywhere. And I said, well, one of the newscasters said the door was taken because they're hoping that prints are on the door would lead to the killer. And he went, that's all he said. Not great. Not really. Mike says, yeah. And then she says, yeah. He said that. That's my feet again. For anybody who goes crazy, that's my feet against the plastic. He said that, or did he say that? That was his reaction. And I watched all this stuff. So I was really, paying close attention. And I remember the lady saying this. I was like, hey, maybe they do have prints, Mike says, And then she says, anyway, so, and that was said in relation to where he said there were no prints found. I said that, anyway, so we're at the house and I actually said a prayer in the garage too before I went into the house. And I looked over and I said, and I saw the boarded up door and I'm getting ready to go in and I go ahead, Mark. And he goes, oh no, after you. I look back at that and it really creeps me out now. And Mike says, that is a little creepy. And she says, oh no, after you, just like that. Really weird. I get in there and I notice that the laundry room is pretty good sized and the washer and dryer is black and it's elevated on shelves and I see papers on there, but I didn't pay attention to them. because they're black, the washer and dryer, the white papers, something is going to stand out to you directly from that, Mike says. Yeah, that's, he says, exactly. And she says, where I'm thinking the note really originated from. And Mike says, uh-huh. She says, that's what I'm guessing. Maybe it was meant for me to see, but I didn't pay attention. I looked over, and I see a deep sink, and I see the cleaning closet, and I noticed that the wall is heavily fingerprinted. And then we walk in to the kitchen, and all the flowers are there, and I know that she died in the kitchen. That was back in the car. Uh-huh, Mike says. She says, I asked, what was she asleep, you know? And he said, no, she died in the kitchen. She was attacked from behind. That's another detail. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, so I knew she died in the kitchen. And then he says, this is where she was found. And he kind of goes like, you know, by the refrigerator. So Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, between the sink and the refrigerator, or the counter there. Yeah. And she says, I said, okay. And I said that this is before I prayed. I remember thinking, okay, she's attacked from behind. I turn around and go directly behind me, and there's the pantry, and the door is ajar. And I said, is that your pantry? And I know it's his pantry, but I just say, is that your pantry? And he goes, yeah, and check this out. And he swings open the door, and there's a big chunk cut out of the door. And I go, that's how they did it? They were in the pantry? I have always said they, and I don't know why. I'll continue to say what I say. And he goes, huh? And that was really weird. And I was like, why is he acting like that? And then I'm like, I felt like I said something I shouldn't have said. And Mike says, uh-huh. And then she says, right. Then I touched a nerve. It bothered him. It was how he looked at me. I got in the closet. Why? I don't know. I don't know. But I got in that closet. And I'm like, okay, you close the door. It's the perfect angle. There she is. You have your arm up here. You press it open. Bam! You could be left-handed anyway. So Mike says, what did he say to that? And she said, that's why he didn't say anything. He was like, huh? But the look in his eye. And you said his whole demeanor pretty much changed after that? Oh, he was very nervous. He paced. And this is when he transitions into the alarm again, right? Mike says, yeah, basically. So I then see, no, I pray then. Okay, so I pray. And a loud noise happens in the house. And he's like, did you hear that? And I go, yeah. And well, then I'm shaking like a leaf. And I'm like, God, I shouldn't be here. I don't know why I'm here. And he grabs his gun and he runs to the back of the house. And he's like, I got a gun. And he's going in the back rooms. And I'm sorry. And he's like, I got a gun. And then he comes back and he goes, there's nobody. And he goes, maybe papers or fell or something. I don't know. And I'm like, oh my God. And then he's like, so then I see the portrait of the girls on the wall, the beautiful portrait of these girls. And I think in the car when I told him that his suit looked really nice, or maybe that it was at South Fork. And I think in the car, but when I told him his suit looked really nice, or maybe it was out South Fork, back to the funeral, but I told him the suit looked rich, looked really good. And then he told me he got it at a charity auction, okay? So fast forward, we're back at the house. I see the portrait. I said, may I go look at it? And he goes, okay. So he has not shown me the note yet because I have not sat down yet. Mike said. And she goes, I go back and I look at the portrait and it's beautiful. This painting, these girls, these angels, it's beautiful. And he tells me, he goes something to the effect that, well, I just wish Teresa could have seen it, or I wish Teresa could have enjoyed it. I don't know which he said. Mike said. What he said? Yeah, Mike said. But it led me to the fact that she didn't get to enjoy this. It led me to believe that in some way, then he tells me he got it at the same auction as this suit. And I remember thinking, he got that suit for the funeral. I don't know why, but it led me to believe that. Mike says, interesting. She says, and then now she says, now I go and I'm looking for a place to sit. Okay. And I go to the stools and there's a lot of fingerprinting dust on there and I sweep it off and I sit down. And that's when he comes out with the note and he's like, oh, and here's the note that Teresa wrote in her handwriting. He put emphasis on in her handwriting. He did. He was like, Mike said that. He put the emphasis on in her handwriting, and she says he did. He was like, comma, in her handwriting, comma. Mike says, yeah. She says, yeah. Of the to-do list before vacation. He's like, but I don't take it. And then Mike says, so he's trying to offer it to you to read? Yeah. It was as if he was going to let me look at it, but I didn't receive it. And I just sit there and I'm like, oh. But then he goes and he sets it down. And when I got up, when I looked at it, and the first bullet, do not set the alarm. And Mike says, okay, so that's number 1 on the list? It's number 1. And Mike says, and he puts emphasis on the fact that it's in her handwriting. And she says, yeah, yes. He says, okay. She says, he wanted me to see that. And I'm thinking, and when he came from out of the laundry room, I think it was probably one of those papers on the washer that I didn't look at. I mean, it was white papers on a black washer, but Mike says, now, are you probably thinking at this point, it's like you have conveyed to me, you're thinking at this point, well, don't you think the police would have taken this? She says, yeah. And he says, like we would, And she says, well, and he goes, would you think that we would just leave that sitting on the, and she goes, like that? Why would you not take that? He goes, that's what I mean, exactly. What's that, what you were telling me? Well, that's what you were telling me. And she says, yeah, and he goes, and that's why I'm like, yeah, I was like, and she goes, and then Mike says, because I'm thinking it while you're telling me, and I was like, I was glad that you actually said it. And she says, yeah, and he says, yeah, and she says, yes, well, and then I look back on how he emphasized in her handwriting, and I'm going, that's phony. And Mike says, yeah, that's, and she goes, he goes, that's what you were telling me. And she said, yeah, he's wanting me to believe that. And Mike says, yeah, he's trying to bring you into his storyline. And she says, even when he sat, okay, so he comes over to me and I'm sitting down and he says to me, I feel bad because I told my mom not to set the alarm. And he gestures towards, and Mike says, the alarm? And she goes, the paper. Oh, yeah, gotcha, Mike says. She says, the paper, yeah. Like, he's connecting me to that paper he wrote. He gestured over. Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, yeah, he did. And now? How do you transition out of this now? Like, what? What changes the conversation? That's Mike saying that. And she says, he's on the phone constantly. He called his attorney. Uh-huh, Mike said. She said, he's telling his attorney about a woman that worked at Teresa's office, a nurse practitioner, who had written a resignation letter and had it emailed to herself at the office prior to Teresa's death. Now, he's talking about Sandra, right? So Mark's using Sandra because Mark got a copy of Sandra's, every email Sandra sent. So she says she intended on leaving the practice and working with a neighborhood doctor in the building, and had said this prior to Teresa's death. And he wanted his attorney to know that it could be a possible motive. So he's trying to pin it on Sandra now. Uh-huh. And Mike says, and she says, that is what he's saying. That's one thing. And then he calls the place that's handling Teresa's cremation. And he wants to know the exact time of cremation, the exact time was 10:15, they tell him. And this is what he says. I don't know who's on the other line, but he says, 10:15, he goes, well, because I might want to stop by and see Teresa again for one last time. So I know I have to leave there at 10. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, and I'm thinking, well, he's not going to have much time. Mike says, yeah. And she says, I don't know where the place is. You know, it could be closed. I have no idea. Mike says, uh-huh. But we left at 10. And I remember thinking, I don't think he's going there. I don't think he's going there. I don't know why. I don't know why. And then he tells me that he's trying to get a hold of the alarm company. There's a woman at the alarm company he's friends with. She won't return his calls. I don't know why she won't return my calls. I want to ask her about bypassing the garage on the alarm system, if it's capable of doing that, or how to do that. And I don't know why he's wanting to know that. And Mike says, uh-huh. And then she says, that was something else. So there were several things he was doing while I was there. So he was pacing quite a bit. He also pulls out a smoothie out of the refrigerator. Now, why I want to know about this smoothie is because, well, this smoothie, okay, I make them every day. And I know that when you make smoothies, they don't last longer than one day. And he pulls out, and Mike says, yeah, you have milk and everything else in them. So, and she says, yeah, it just doesn't, it's supposed to be all natural, but they don't last long. Mike says, yeah. She goes, so if you're going to really make a smoothie, you're intending to drink it within 24 hours. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, unless you freeze it. The smoothie is in the refrigerator. It's a big green smoothie. He's like, I'll probably never throw this away. This is her last smoothie. And I think back on it, and I think, when did she make that smoothie? I'd like to know when she made that smoothie. Because if she made that smoothie before the trip and she forgot about it, it's nothing. If she made the trip for Monday, she'd made it for Monday workday. That's a different story. And Mike says, uh-huh. She says, when did she make that smoothie? Did she make it that last night? She didn't really get killed when she walked through the door? That is what I'm thinking. When did she make that smoothie? If you could tell me, that would be great. I really want to know about that smoothie. Mike says, I wish I knew when she made that. I can't tell you that. She says, wouldn't you want to know when she made that smoothie? And he goes, yes, definitely. And she says, I was actually surprised you guys didn't think about that. Come on, guys, get on the ball. But anyway, and he goes, no, we have. He's saving face. But I mean, it's not being there. It's kind of hard to tell. You know, it's hard to dictate either. She says, did you see it there when you were in the fridge? Did you see it though? And he says, what? I don't. Yeah, come on. Fess up, Mike. It's been so long since I've been there. She says, yeah. No, Labid says, yeah. And then he says that I couldn't tell you right now. Yeah. And then she says, I mean, don't you take pictures inside the refrigerator? And Labid says, pictures of everything. And Mike says, yeah, we have hundreds and hundreds. And Labid says, we have pictures. And then he says, hundreds of pictures. And she says, okay, but And Mike says, I'll go look for a green smoothie. And then she said, if I would have been there, I would have said, hey, check that out. And he says, yeah, especially if it was fresh. No, we do that, but... And she goes, yeah, okay. And he says, it's been so long. And she goes, no, yeah, so it's probably nothing. And Mike says, there's so much going on. And she says, yeah, but it really bothered me because it was like, I know they don't last long. And he said, uh-huh. And she said, and they're expensive. Smoothies are not cheap. So when a person puts a smoothie in the refrigerator, it's in preparation to drink. And he goes, yeah, you're going to drink it. And she says, and then LeBoyd says, it's like marinating a piece of meat. And then he says, LeBoyd says, you're not going to marinate a piece of meat unless you're ready to. And then she says, exactly. And he says, cook it the next day or the night. Yeah, exactly. And then LeBoyd says, I get it. LeBoyd says, I get it. And she says, so I wanted to know when she made that smoothie. So bottom line, that was something and Mike says, well, I will look at the pictures when I can. And she says, it's probably not going to tell you anything, you know. And LeBoyd says, never know. It's like we talk about all the time, the smallest detail, yeah. And she says, the smallest detail, and why I remember the strangest things. I don't know. I think my senses were heightened. Mike says, yeah, it's like you were saying. And then LeBoyd says, well, and Mike says, you were suspicious at that point as you were, right? She says, he said, you were paying attention to all the details. She said, I paid attention to every little thing I could tell you. The texture of their walls were knocked down. It was the strangest thing. I don't know why I remember so much. He got nervous acting when I went to look at the doggy door. I thought that was weird. And then Mike said, yeah, that is. Yeah, sure. And she said, I was like, well, and my husband. And I said, he goes, because we were in the house before, and he goes, don't you remember they had a doggy door? And that was before I went down. I go, yeah, kind of. I don't remember what it was. So when he was on the phone, I was like, oh, where's the doggy door? And I go over, and there's this big glass wall. And he goes, And she said, overlooking the pool, but the doggy door is far off to the right. And I was like, man, this is a big doggy door. And then there was against the wall, it looked like a piece that fit into the doggy door, or maybe fit over the doggy door. And Mike says, yeah, it slides over the top. That's why he can't go in and out. And this way he can't go in and out. And she said, possibly. It was sitting against the wall. And he said, And she said, well, when I got up and looked at it, I was like this. And then I turned around and he was standing behind me. And I was like, oh. And Mike says, oh, that's creepy. And she goes, it creeped me out a little bit. He wanted to know what I was looking at. Then Mike says, now, you go home after this, right? I do. And you don't return. She says, well, I go out to the car, back to the whole GPS thing. The reason why I knew Wayne had a GPS is because I remember him driving next to me and seeing it. And then I just got a new GPS and I wondered, am I applying it to my windshield correctly? And I looked over and I see, oh, he's got it in the same spot. Oh, okay. And when at South Fork we were talking, I said, my husband got me a GPS for my birthday. And he says, oh, what kind? And I said, oh, it's a Garmin. And he goes, oh, the same as mine. So I remembered that. And I was thinking, if he brought it down once, he may have brought it down before. Mike says it's very possible. And so she says, and I looked into it, and it does leave breadcrumbs. She's a good one. So, and Mike says, She says, you can see what he's put in it. Anyway. And then LeBoyd says, you're talking about Wayne? Right? And she says, And he says, Mike says, it's a good point. And then she says, yeah. So he did have a GPS with him, but anyway. And then LeBoyd says, and he said it's a Garmin? They got some information out of it. And she says, he said it was a Garmin. And they said, well, that's interesting. And she said, well, he said it was the same as mine. LeBoyd says, okay. And Mike says, and you mentioned that you have a Garmin, right? Yes. Mike says, yeah. And then she said, yeah. And he had, I saw it, but I didn't get in the car, but I saw it applied. Okay, Mike says. She says, to the windshield. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I guess I have it in the right area. I was very new to GPS. And, it worked out really great because it got me everywhere I wanted to go in Florida. I was driving alone. And Mike says, did he mention where he got his GPS from? She says, no. And then Mike says, no? And she said, no, I don't even remember how long he had it. I could have sworn he told me it was a garment. So, I don't know. And maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong. And Mike says, is there any? And she said, but he had a GPS. I know that. Okay, Mike says, is there anything else notable you remember about before you left? And she says, well, I went out to the car from his house. And leaving Mark got into his car and I got into my car and I'm typing into the GPS how to get to the airport. And he made sure he sat there the whole time until I left, just fiddling in his car. He just wanted to make sure I left. I just felt he wanted to make sure I left. Interesting, Mike says. Yeah. So, and then she says, like no time for him to leave and me get out of the car. Like, I guess he doesn't trust me, or he could pick up on my inquisitive. And Mike says, yeah, maybe he saw that you were starting to look around. She says, I just, and he was like, huh? And she says, I didn't do it on purpose. And just peace of mind, Mike said. And she said, I couldn't help myself. Yeah, he said, I just couldn't help myself. And then Mike says, so now you go home and you still maintain telephone contact with Mark, correct? And she says, yeah, I did text him when I got home. I told him I landed. On the plane, I pulled out a notepad and I started making notes. And that's when I started. I just didn't think things were right. Maybe things were popping in my head. And I'm like, I'm going to note them. I told my husband last night, I said, what really gets me, I was this close to not saying anything seriously out of fear, because, and Mike says, I believe you, but it's like we were saying on the phone. It's a really hard decision to make, but you said there were so many things that set you off that you said you were having trouble sleeping and everything else. And she goes, oh my gosh, blood pressure. I'm on high blood pressure medication now. I thought, what if I'm the only one he told? How many times he'll know it's me? I was scared. So this is my first entry to the Crime Stoppers. I said more than 10, less than 20, because I was so scared to say the number. I was scared. So the person putting Crime Stoppers going north, they're close to him. They're scared to say where. Mike said, yeah. She said, because that would indicate who it is, because that's how I was. I was scared, but I was like, I'm just going to throw it out there. And Mike says, now I know you. You had a lot of conversations with Mark, and he, just up until about a week ago, right? So I don't want to, I'm not going to touch on every single conversation. And she says, yeah. He says, but just some of the notes of interest of us speaking. You said that when you were talking to Mark and he was telling you about his attorney, how he had gotten an attorney, and how his attorney and Mark's attorney was telling him, not to speak to one another. I don't know. He said, I think he means, they forgot a word. It must be Curtis's attorney. Not to speak to one another and to stay kind of separate. And she says, yeah. And you also noted at one point that Mark told you that they were going to have, that he was going to have Wayne come down an additional time to throw off the investigation. Is that correct? And she says, say that again? And he says, well, we spoke about 3 weeks ago. And she goes, oh, no. The attorneys had nothing to do with that. And Mike says, no. That's what I'm saying. But I was just saying, when they were talking about attorneys, you're saying that Mark told you that he's not allowed to talk to Wayne. She says, correct. And he says, but he did anyway. And she says, no. And he goes, he doesn't? And she says, not that I'm aware of. And he says, oh, okay. And she says, I told you something about the plan that they were coming back. She says, this was at the funeral. They said this at South Fork. And Mike says, And she said, afterwards, the plan was, I asked when they were leaving, and they said they weren't sure. He said he had to put up security cameras for Mark. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, at the house. But he said They were planning on going back or renting the rental car and returning the rental car. His wife is going to work in a few days. And then his wife, she was like, oh yeah, we have to go to get the rental car back. I've got to go to work in a few days, but we're coming back. I just remember that, thinking that it's so bizarre that they would like want to be there. I just thought, how do they have that much time to do that? You just can't take all that time you want and just go down there and stay. I don't know. It was weird. And then Mike says, and she goes, that they were coming back. Now, I think maybe they were coming back for another payment. And Mike says, yeah, now and she goes, but by then, they may have believed that his insurance would have paid out. So then he's coming back for, more. Mike says, yeah, it's possible. She says, and then Mike says, but specifically what I'm talking about. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of text messages, and we've talked a couple of times, so it might be hard to recall all this. And she goes, okay. He says, and especially being that, you're probably a little nervous. And she says, okay. And now we're speaking, but specifically on July 31st, that is Friday, July 31st at 5:38 p.m. Okay, she said. He says, you and I were having a text conversation, and you had texted me, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim. She says, okay. So he says, and maybe it will refresh your memory. You put one small thing Mark said to me at the beginning of our phone conversation, our call, that is likely that the calls are being monitored. And she said, yes. And he said, he may have told me about the July 24th plan for Wayne to do the computers to throw off the investigation. It could be possible that he gives such information to his mother to pass along to Wayne, so their stories are the same. And then she goes, oh, I remember, yeah. And he says, okay, I just wanted to make sure, yeah, because, oh, yeah, I thought you were talking about Wayne. I'm sorry. No problem. And she says, yes. So he believes the calls are being monitored, so he clearly puts stories out there because he believes we're being listened to. So he tells me the plan was Wayne was supposed to go down July 24th. Okay. And he's going to come down there and do the computers, get an upgrade for the system, for the EMR. And he's coming down, and he's going to stay at the house, and he's going to use their cars. He's done it before. And Mike says, uh-huh. She says, he says this. He goes, they were in turn, he and Teresa, they wouldn't care because they're going to take a mini vacation, and they're going to see Danielle in Texas. Okay. Yeah, that's what. And then Mike says, so you do remember that? And she goes, oh, yes. And Mike says, okay. And she goes, I recall that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mike says, no, it's okay. I got confused, she said. Like I said, there's a ton of misinformation, Mike said. I know, yes. And then Mike said, I even had to refer to my notes. So, and she said, yes, just to make sure, he said. So Danielle, she says, in Texas, apparently is Teresa's really good friend for many, many years. I don't know how long, but many, many years. And so he is saying that they were going to plan a mini vacation when he got back in town from Connecticut, which would have been like July 1st or something. And he says that they're going to do this mini vacation, but of course that didn't happen. So leading to believe Mark or Wayne never came to do the computers on July 21st because she's murdered, but then I thought that maybe the real plan for June, that Teresa believed Wayne was going to be there. Yeah, he told me I called, so he called me on my birthday. Mark did. Mike said. And my birthday is June the 10th. And my son was in a movie here, a local movie, and so I didn't take any calls. We were in the movie, seeing the movie that he was in. And then I returned his calls. And I think I returned his call 2 days later. And I was thinking it was the next day, but then I think it was 2 days later. And you could check Mark's phone records when I called him, but I was returning his call because he wanted to wish me a happy birthday, and I'm going to tell him all about the movie. And Mike says, and she says, and how proud I am and everything. And then, he says his wife, Teresa, him and his wife, Teresa, were at dinner, and he says, well, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday, and he goes, and our friend, and that's how he refers to Wayne. It's kind of weird, but he's always done this. And our friend wishes you a happy birthday as well. And I said, oh, Wayne's there? And he goes, no, he's not here, but he will be in a few weeks. He has to upgrade our computer system, but I have to go now. And Mike says, uh-huh. She says, and that's what he told me. Mike says, and then you also mentioned at some point to Mark, Mark and Wayne were trying to, Mark had stated that he was, for better or lack of a better word, fabricating an alibi, a story of what happened, and that he and his lawyer were videotaping fixing the alarm. And she says, so the alarm. So he tells me that he has a private eye. He tells me, I'm sorry, it's my husband trying to get a hold of me. And then Mike says, okay, if you need to talk to him, I don't want to worry him. So if you want to talk to him, she goes, oh, he went golfing. And anyway, he goes, oh, shoot him a text. Just let him know that you're okay. And she says, okay. He said, because he's probably, and she goes, yeah. And Mike says, he's probably going crazy. And she says, no, I would text him. I would. No, LeBold says, no, I would text him. I would. And she says, okay, I'm still. And Mike says, no rush. And she says, with them, can you believe I have a little slider that is, I don't even have a smartphone. And then Mike says, I know, I was going to say, I haven't seen one of those in a while. And she says, I know. And LeBoyd says, that's awesome. Good for you. And then she says, anyway, so I'm sorry. Let's, and Mike says, no problem. I'll just repeat it because and she goes, please. We threw you off a little bit. One of the last times that we spoke, you had mentioned to me that Mark had told you that he and his lawyer were working together for him to come up with an alibi of certain things, like the alarm system. And then you transitioned to saying that they were actually videotaping fixing the alarm system. And she said, yes. So he tells me he has a private eye. He doesn't say what the private eye is for. But then he kind of, I said, oh, I kind of lead him with that and said, and he says to help with the investigation. And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to get a full report on that. So he went with my leading. And then Mike says, mm-hmm. And she says, okay, so he doesn't really say why he got the private eye. But then he says that they're coming out to fix the alarm and it's going to be videotaped. And I believe he said the private eye was going to videotape that. Okay, Mike says. The private eye was referred to him by his attorney. And then Mike says, did he say what else he was using the private eye for? And she says, no. But he took I told him, which I shouldn't have. I led him as if, oh, it must be for the investigation. You're trying to find the killer, right? So he goes with that. He runs with that, basically. And Mike says, okay, I'm just going to jump around a little bit. Just some real points of interest. She says, yeah. He says, so you also said to me at some point that Mark's lawyer actually took his phone to have it downloaded. And she said, yes. And he said, so that they can see what we had? And she said, so back when you got the tip that he was gone? And she said, uh-huh. And she said, well, he wouldn't respond to my call, so I was trying to find out for you where he was. And Mike says, yeah. And she said, but he never did respond. And I was like, this is weird. He normally would respond all the time, but he didn't. And then he eventually does. Well, in the meantime, I took it upon myself to call Henry. I texted Henry, and I'm like, Henry, have you heard anything from Mark? How's he doing? I've tried to get a hold of him. I can't get a hold of him. And maybe I shouldn't have done it, but I was a little overeager. And Henry says that he actually talks to him 2 to 3 times a week. And he was planning on calling him later that night. Later that evening, Henry calls me. Mm-hmm. And he says, hey, you know what? I got a hold of Mark. He's okay. He's doing pretty good. I'm thinking, oh, he answered his call. And he says, oh, well, and he's doing exactly what I've been telling him to do. He's busy. He's preoccupied now, working at the office, working on his computer, and that's what he tells me. So he answered Henry's call, but he didn't answer mine. So then he does eventually call me, and it wasn't that night, though. Yeah, Mike says. And maybe it was Friday night he calls me, and he tells me, oh, I'm sorry, Carrie, my attorneys wanted my phone to upload all kinds of data just to see what I had turned in. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, so to you guys basically. And he goes, I did delete a few things. He said that. And then Mike said, he did tell you that? And she said, yeah, he did. And Mike says, and? But he didn't say what he deleted. And Mike said, yeah, just said that that he had deleted some things. And she said, yeah. And so he says he has like 28 missed calls and messages to return. And I was the first one he returned. Okay, yeah. And then he also mentioned to you at some point that his lawyers told him that he should fight for his things back. Otherwise, it would make him look guilty. And she said that was just recently. Oh, Mike said, yeah. She said this was the most recent. It was last two weeks ago, somewhere around that. And then she says, no, it would have been last week. And he says, okay. And he says, oh, yeah, Mike says, that's right, because that's when he went and he got the phone back. Yeah. Mike says, that's right. And she says, it might have been Tuesday. Uh-huh. And then she said, anywhere between Tuesday and Friday, somewhere in that time frame. And I was taking a bath, and I wanted a notepad, and I didn't have one. And I'm going, oh, I got to remember all this. But anyway, he tells me on that phone conversation, because I said to him, I want to know why the van wasn't, I want to know if he had the van. Oh, if she ever saw the inside of that van. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she said, this is me being inquisitive. So I say to him, he's talking about logistics. This is her talking. And I say to him, what? Are you going to do with your vehicles? You know, are you going to sell one? You know, maybe Teresa's car, keep the other? What are you going to do? And he goes, that's the thing. I don't even have my van back yet. And then he says, my attorney is urging me to fight for my things back, he said, specifically the van. Because if we ask for the van back and you don't give it back, you'll have to note it as evidence and we'll know that what they have. That's what he said. And Mike said, now you also mentioned to me in all this time and talking to him, and when he was telling you all these things, you said that it was clicking inside that, like, why is he so concerned with the evidence the police have? Shouldn't he be happy if they do have evidence? Because, and she goes, yeah, uh-huh. And he says, and you said, never once did he say, and actually you specifically asked him, and stop me if I'm wrong, but you specifically asked him, well, don't you want them to find out what happened? And he says, I forget what you told me that he said, but he says, I just want it to be done, or let's just let it pass, and she goes, he told me at the house. And he says, oh, he said that at the house? And she said, at the house. And he said, okay. And she said, he said at some point, he said, we just have to let it go. And Mike said, let it go? That's it? I just couldn't remember that. And then she said, yes. And I'm going, we have no killer arrested. Yeah, it's only been 3 days at this point anyway, Mike says. And she says, yes. And Mike says, yeah, and now he's ready to let it go already? And she says, yes, yes. Well, it's been over a week at that point. And then Mike says, no, but you know what I mean. I mean, it's since like the funeral, yeah. And she goes, yeah. And he goes, so? And she says, I see, that bothered me. You see that he said that. I mean, and these other things that are, and she says, I'm like, we gotta let it go. And Mike says, yeah, that made things start to click inside your head, right? And she said, yeah, but here's the other thing. And I said, and I rarely curse, okay? But I said to my husband, that son of a biatch. I got off the phone. I said, I have lost sleep. I'm doing everything I can to think of who could have killed her. And he doesn't bring it up once. And Mike says, you're actually taking this harder than Mark Sievers. And she goes, I know. And he says, and I can tell you this because I've spoken to both of you. And Labid says, yeah. And Mike says, and I can legitimately tell you that you are, taking it harder than he is. And Libid agrees and says yes. And she says, I will say that since I released it to you, you probably need therapy now. And then Mike says, probably so. And she said, but I feel a lot better. And Libid says, good, well, good. And she says, I do, I'm sleeping better. And then Libid says, I hope so. And she says, I didn't sleep good Saturday night. And Mike says, no, that's good. When you, the other night when you texted me and you were like, I had a good night's sleep, I was like, good. And then she's like, yeah. And Mike said, because you desperately needed it. And then she said, I feel like I have. But that I told my husband, I said, hold on, he never, that son of a biatch, she said it again, he never once said who killed my wife. I want to know. That's not normal behavior. And Mike said, that's not. She said, there's so many things that are not normal behavior. Of course, his attorney is saying, well, we need to start utilizing your rights because you're not even asking about your case. You're not even asking about, that's not normal. It makes you look guilty. And I can tell you, Mark, if somebody hurt your daughter, he'd break down your door. And she says, for him to have those girls at the house that is what he told me on Sunday when I flew down there. He said he had the girls at the house Saturday night, the night before, for rebonding. Yeah, to rebond with the house, Mike said? Yeah, with the house. At this point, they didn't even know their mother is murdered. They didn't even have the family meeting yet. And then Mike says, yeah, they are, and they've already gone back in the house. And she says the family meeting was on Sunday. They had already been there. They had already had him there. Yeah, this rebonding. He was going to rebond. He gets the kids to rebond with the house. And now he says to me, the girls want to be here because this isn't where Mommy died. This is where Mommy lived. And Mike says, yeah. She says, those girls are I don't believe it. I think he's using the girls to rally support. And I can't help it, but I read people's comments, like on Nancy Grace and things like that. And Mike says, yeah. And she goes, and these people are like, I know Mark Sievers, and I know he's not capable of doing anything like this. And I'm thinking, you don't know him that well. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, because if you really knew him well, you'd know he's not acting right. And Mike says, well, I mean, yeah, you never know what goes on with behind closed doors and everything else. And she goes, well, that's true. And he says, you know what I mean. And she goes, and Mike says, history is proven. And she says, even if I didn't know any of that, even if I did not, I could still say this is not normal behavior. And Mike says, exactly. And she says, you do not act this way. And Mike says, yeah, and she goes, this is not normal. And Mike says, which leads me to my next question. And she says, yes. And he says, I know. I appreciate you spending this time with us. I only have a couple of more questions. It's fine, she says. But just for the record, how long have you known Mark Sievers? She says, I met Mark when I was 14 years old. And he says, and you've known Wayne since that time also, correct? Yes, and you guys were actually very close friends growing up. Yes. From what I understand, Mike says, and she goes, yeah, Mark, well, Wayne was actually my boyfriend. He was my first love. This gets better and better. And Mike says, uh-huh. And she says, which is hard to believe, but he was. Mike says, at 14? And she goes, yeah. And he was a good kid. Yeah, I met him. There was a swimming pool down the road called Lake Holiday. And it's a subdivision now, but it was an awesome place. And I met him there. And we just, fell in love. Young love, but we did. And we were together all the way through high school. So it left quite an impact on my life. Wayne did. Wayne was very bright. He won a prestigious science award in school. He went on to be president of the high school, of his class. And then he met Candy, who kind of wouldn't leave him alone. And I just was really thinking ulterior motives with him. And she did. And she ended up getting pregnant by him. And that ended everything with us. So I knew I would marry him. And thank God I didn't. But anyway, but from there, I don't know what happened. He was a good kid. And Mike says, well, the reason why, and she says he was very smart, into computers. As soon as he could, he was learning everything he could about computers. He hacked into the high schools. Mike said, see? And she goes, well, he did. And he says, yeah, that's what you were telling me. That's what I was going to ask you. And she says, and she said, you said he hacked into the high school's computer system. And she said, well, he did. He did. And that's what the school, did, was they said, we're going to take that knowledge and use it for good. And they took him and to help him figure out how to create a much better system. So they used him for the good. Interesting, Mike said. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty incredible, she said. And, he's just really bright, very bright. The reason I asked you, since you knew him, I mean, growing up with him, especially as close as you were to them, yeah, she said, you know their mannerisms and their emotions and how they feel and how they react with certain stimulus. She says, yes. And you know whether it be, something traumatic or something. Yeah, she said, positive, or she goes, especially Mark. And he says, especially Mark? And she said, I've lost track of Wayne. Wayne got into trouble and, then I started seeing that he's nothing but a habitual liar. He wasn't like that when we were together. When you knew him? Right. Yeah, people do change over time, Mike says. But, she goes, but he changed. And then he got into drugs, I think. And I don't even know what all. And then Mike says, but being that you know pretty, that much about them and how they react and things like that, in the contact that you had with them in Florida, she says, did you feel at any point that Mark's emotions were fake and for the people around him, or did you feel they were genuine? And, or especially Wayne, were his emotions, or you said that Wayne showed no emotion whatsoever? And she says, well, what's really weird is that I would have never suspected Wayne. If he would have told me ahead of time, I would have watched him. My concern was solely for Mark. I was more irritated with Wayne and his wife. I thought they were rude, and I had very little patience and tolerance for them. They were she was not, I was just put off by them. Yeah, she's not a kind person, Mike said. No, she did not like me. She did not want me around, and she was very clear about it. So I don't know. What we had was in the past. And Mike says, and she says, this man does not tempt me now. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, so, but he was disturbed by it, by us being together. But Mike says, but she goes, I never suspected Wayne. Well, and he says, but like you had noted to me, like especially when dealing with Mark, and one of the things that made you suspicious is all the time you'd known him, that now you see how he reacts to things, and then how his emotional reaction seemed forced. And then Mike says, like he was forcing it on people. She says, I can tell you, Mark is the one that stood out to me. Mark did not act natural in his behavior with anything other than his laughing. That was normal. That wasn't put on. When he'd laugh, it was his laugh. But his cry was not his cry. It was fake. I believe it was fake. And he seemed to want to avoid me. He didn't want to make eye contact with me. And when I was in the line to say, I'm sorry at the funeral, and I hugged him, and I'm crying so hard. And he turns his head to the side and he says, Carrie, my lifelong friend Carrie. I just can't believe it. And Mike says, take your time. We're almost done. I have just a couple more questions. And she says, I don't want to believe it, but I know it's true. And so when he tells me, about Kenny, I was hoping that somebody else did it, because Mark was such a good person. Maybe not Wayne so much, Mark was. And Mike says, no, I believe you. And then he says, emotions, and how things change over time. People change over time. She says, well, I can tell you that as protective as he is of his girls, he's yanked them out of schools for one little wrong thing, that he would never let them in the house with a killer on the loose. And then Mike says, unless he's 100% certain. And she says, and I know, I'm like, that is not Mark. He would not put them there if there was a killer. He would not even be near that street. That's Mark. He's radical. And Mike says, yeah, you're answering all my questions before I even get to ask them. And she said, he's radical. He's radical. And Mike says, yeah. And then she said, I mean, you could see him at a rally. He's radical, but he's always been loyal in his heart to me. Mike says, yeah, And she says, and I don't know what happened, but I think in my gut, his life and his world is those girls. And he's done a fantastic job raising them. They are fantastic and brilliant, and I don't think she was going to take them. It had to be something that he so feared. I just don't think I just can't picture him doing it for the money. Money might have been a bonus, but I think it was more out of fear. He believed her, and she had a mouth, and she must have convinced him of something, and he was really afraid. And I think if he would have called me, and I could have told him that it's not going to happen, it doesn't happen like that, I just wish he would have. And then Mike said, now that's one other thing I was going to ask you. I have 2 more questions. Now, he said that about 5 times now. Now, when I was talking to you on the phone one night, you conveyed to me that the girls are Mark's world, right? He even said they're his world. Yes. And that he would do anything for them. Yes. And then you had said that I had asked you that if there was something going on where they were going to split up. Yeah. And Teresa was talking about living on the road and things like that. Yeah. That he would basically have nothing at that point, right? And she said he would have, he's a stay-at-home dad, right? Yeah, he is. He runs the office. That's his job, she said. He wouldn't have a job. He wouldn't have any money. Mike said. She was gaining notoriety. He's nothing. And she took the girls. He literally would be 47 years old with nothing. And she probably would have had the money to make sure he didn't have anything in his head. I don't believe it would have completely panned out like that, but because fear can make you think those things. And Mike says, and she said, but I think he probably thought that if that's the case, and it's possible, yeah, Mike says, it has to be the only way I could see him wanting or going through with something like that would be something to take those girls. And Mike says, and in all the time that you've known him, and with all this in mind, do you think he is capable of doing it? I mean, if she was going to take the girls or anything like that. And she said, I think he's radical enough that if he would have believed it, Mike said, he would do anything to keep his girls. Okay. And the other thing I'd like to say, sure, he's lived more of a privileged life than Wayne. And I think that if you arrest Wayne and you don't arrest Mark right away, and he thinks it's coming down the pipeline, I think he'll kill himself before he'll go to jail. And Mike said, well, you had said that he had told you that he thinks he's going to be arrested for this, correct? And she said, he's prepared. He's prepared, and if he does get arrested, he's had people aligned to take care of the girls. And he said his mother's staying at the condo with him the whole time so that if he were ever to be arrested, the girls wouldn't be put in some foster home. In his head, he believes that's what would transpire. And he can't let that happen, so he has to have his ducks in a row. And then he also asked his attorney, he said, if I go to jail, how long will I be in prison? And his attorney said, a long, long, long time. And I believe in his head, I don't know, I feel like he would kill himself. He's got a gun. And Mike says, I just have one more question. The last time we spoke, you said Mark had conveyed to you that he was calling people that he knew. She says, yes. And his girlfriend's telling them that the police would be coming around to interview them. She said, yes. He said he feels that you guys you were trying to get through to him and you were trying to get through to people that he knows, trying to alienate him from them by talking to Nancy Grace about a tax bill. He said you talked to Nancy Grace about a $30,000 tax bill. And he said, in honesty, it was $35,000. Why he said that, I don't know. But it's not 30, it's 35, he says. He called Danielle. I don't know if he called Beth or he went to see Beth. It wouldn't surprise me if he went to see Beth. There's something about Beth that I remember him talking about, this Beth that was friends with Teresa, calling her like a trophy wife or kind of girl. And she was splitting up with her husband, and he had taught her how to shoot a gun. And I remember thinking, this is before the whole swinging thing. Mike says. And I'm thinking, he's attracted to her. It was how he described her. I'm like, and you're over there sitting there calming her down while Teresa is at home. I don't even remember why he was there, but I remember thinking, he likes her. He's interested in her. So this is the Beth. So this is the Beth and Danielle that about their secret lifestyle. This is how he says to me, their secret. Mike says. And then I said, what did they say? And he said, Danielle said, well, she's a hoe. And I said, what? Teresa a hoe? And he goes, oh yeah, Carrie. He goes, oh yes, Carrie. Teresa's never been faithful to anyone ever. And he goes, well, I mean, until she got married. And then I thought, what did he tell them? Because all I knew is that he was sleeping with other women. And Mike says, yeah. And she says, and I mean, until, but Teresa came out the hoe? And I'm thinking, what did he really tell them? And Mike says, And she said, I don't know. But then he proceeds to tell me that another woman was brought into the bedroom. I did not know that. He didn't tell me that 2 years before. He told me only about his little rendezvous. And he said that what Teresa wanted, and he said it was not his first go-round, but it was what she wanted. And they did it for a while. And then they stopped like a little over a year ago or something like that. Mike says, okay. And then she says, so he did tell me that he talked to Beth and to Danielle and that he worried that Teresa's family would find out this information about them. And she said he was very concerned about that. And I think they've been very supportive of him, to my knowledge. Very supportive. But I don't know. It seems like he's gotten a lot of support, but I think it's because of the girls. And Mike says, yeah, that probably has a lot to do with it. And she says, everybody loves the girls. And she says, but, I find it interesting that he has people aligned to take those girls that are in Florida. And that if something happens to him, he's not letting those girls go to Connecticut with her family, with their family. They're going to go to some friends. Little does he know, Mike says this, little does he know he really has no say in how this happens. And then she says, that's what my husband said. Mike says, and she says, that's what my husband said, but I don't know. I think he'd kill himself. And Mike says, I lied to you. I do have one final question. She says, you can ask me anything. And he says, and then my partner may have a couple. She says, that's fine. Okay. Mike says, we spoke also when you guys were younger, and you said that Mark was involved with someone who wound up disappearing that was never found, that person? Wayne. Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne. Wayne. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that, what you were talking about? Okay. So the only reason I know about Ronnie Bolam missing is through Mark. That's interesting. Mike says, She says, when I think back on it, I think I didn't know about any of this from any other source but Mark. But Mark tells me that Ronnie Bolam and Ronnie's brother, Wayne, were very good friends with them. And Ronnie turns up missing. And Wayne is suspected because he was the last person seen with Ronnie having lunch somewhere. And the story goes that Wayne got arrested or was taken into the station by the police and beat to a pulp. There's no They didn't log that in. They never had to. It wasn't like it is now. They were trying to get him to confess. Well, this is what Mark told me. And he didn't confess. And he ended up hospitalized. And they never found Ronnie. And he tells me that Ronnie Boland's car was found like in St. Louis. His keys in the ignition, maybe a door open, but they never found him. But Mark knew this. Mark is the one who told me about it. Okay? I just wanted to touch on that. Mike said, do you have any other questions? And Labid says, did he say how he knew about that or no? And she goes, well, through Wayne. It would be interesting to know if Mark knew more. It would be, Mike said. It would be very interesting. Like, you were successful of getting rid of somebody. You might be successful again, she said. And Mike said, yeah. And she said, yeah. That's a very good observation, Mike said. She says, yes. And Labid says, that's a very good observation. She says, yes. Then, through the times, now this is Labid, you have known Mark and Wayne. Have you ever known them to be physically intimate? She says, no. He says, okay. Does the question surprise you at all? She says, yes. Labid says, okay. She says, well, yes and no. And then Labid says, why no? And she said, well, it would with Mark, but maybe not for Wayne. And then Labid says, why? And she says, well, people talk. I've heard friends. There's some things on Facebook that say things, and there would be little puns said, and he's been in jail. Can you give like a specific example of a pun, Mike says? Like, what kind of phrasing would it be? She says, I could pull up Facebook for you, and show you. And Labid says, any kind of summary or guess? It would be like, I can't remember the story. It's on Facebook. Let me see if this rings a bell, Mike says, because we had touched on this a bit earlier also. She says, and Wayne would, and he's reading, and Wayne would post something like, nice ass, or something like, nice butt, or something like that for a guy. And she says, that's probably the post. And Mike says, yeah. And then she says, you read that? And he said, no, you told me about it. Remember we talked about it? And she goes, I did. And he says, yeah. And she goes, what did I say? And he says, no, that's what we talked about. I had asked you the question earlier about that. And have you ever heard and that they've been involved? And you said, well, you suspect, well, you don't know specifically, but you suspected maybe possibly Wayne because he would post things like that on Facebook. She said, yeah, I just saw this today. He said, no, we talked about this prior. I don't recall that at all. He said, that's why I asked you about it. And she says, you've asked me before if they were intimate? And he says, yeah. That's how you told me about the nice butt post or nice ass or, yeah. And she goes, okay, well, that's what I'm referring to, but I don't remember. And he says, yeah. And she says, the conversation, but yeah, Mark posted, I could pull up my Facebook. And he goes, if you want. She said, I was just trying to save you from doing that, but if you want to do it, feel free. If you guys have time, I let me get a couple more questions. Labid said, okay. Then we'll stop. Okay. And then we'll do that. And then there was something that Wayne posted on Facebook. I wanted you to see. Go ahead, she's saying. Perfect. Take your time. Did Mark or Wayne ever make a pass at you? And that you noticed or no? And she said no. And he said, okay, well, Mark had you alone. She goes, Mark we've never kissed. I'd hug him as a brother. He calls me sis, and I call him brother. We did hold hands in the car, but it was this. It's, not, and then Labid, it's comforting, like a brother, sister. Okay, all right, like a mourning person. It's supporting a mourner. She says, yeah. Okay, right. And she goes, he has never hit on me, ever. And I know people probably think it's odd. It's unusual. It's unusual to have a guy, girl so close and neither one has feelings. And Labid says, yeah, for that long a period of time, it's kind of weird, And then she says, yeah, and he goes, as you said, 32 years? She says, yeah, never. I always thought he was a little kinky. And Libid says, why? And she said, well, he was a womanizer. He always treated me great, though, but he was a womanizer. And he would go out as friends, and he'd be hitting on girls, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe he treats his girlfriend like that. We were just friends. I'm like, oh, whatever. It's Mark. He would. He was frequently going to bed with women. You know, he was that kind of a guy. Anyway, that I can remember. I even remember from my 21st birthday when he rented me a hotel room or a hotel party. And my mom said, you can go to the party, but you can't stay all night. And no, it had to be maybe my 19th birthday because I was like, no, about 19. But I'm like, Mom, he rented the hotel room. I can't stay. And she's like, no, you have to come home. But even there, you know, he was in a hot tub with a girl and they were all over each other. And you know, it was my party, but he was having the fun. And he was just always with someone. He was with that girl that I used to work with named Lynn. Mm-hmm. And she was married. Mm-hmm. And she was always at his condo. His sister, Wayne's sister, when Mark got married, Wayne and I flew down together. And, well, we all went to his bachelor party together, and I had never been to a strip club. It's not my scene. I was like, and they were like, Carrie, come on. And I was like, come on, this is not me. And they said, you know, this isn't me. Well, Mark said, Teresa actually met, you know, was through Stacy. She's dead now. She was gay. Okay. She had a crush on Wayne's sister, Wendy, who I thought was straight. But before you knew it, they were all over each other. And I was sick. So I said, I'm going to the ocean. And, you know, we all had a lot to drink. And we all flipped off our clothes and ran into the ocean, okay? And then, you know, and that's how the night ended. But, you know, it was, to me, pretty wild. I thought it was pretty wild. But I was like, oh, my gosh, those two. But Wayne, there were pictures of Wayne and Wendy, his own sister. They were very seductive. And that's when you asked me what I would think of Wayne, that would be it. Seductive pictures, like her writing on his wall in a way that, oh, sisters should not do to a brother. And Libid says, what do you mean writing? And she says, well, like seductively wrapping her legs around him, or yeah, you know. And she was making out with Mark's sister, Stacy, that whole night. So I'm breaking stuff up, but I'm recalling this because I went to a party at Mark's condo years ago, and I remember Wendy and Wayne acting like brother and sister should not. And then, I don't know if you knew anything about that, but Mike said, no, this is definitely new. And she says, Wendy is, I guess, weird. I don't know. I shouldn't say weird. And then Mike says, we met her. And she says, but she's liberal. And Mike says, we got the same vibe. And she says, or I don't know what you want to say. I don't want to seem like I'm down in her, but, and Libid says, you're not making an observation that we think is accurate. And then she says, she can urinate like a man. I'm sorry. I don't know why I need to tell you that. And Mike says, she's got to, and then Libid said, it came up. And Mike said, it is what it is. And she said, so anyway. And then Mike said, that does. She said, I just remember her running around trying to pee on people. But that's why I ran in the ocean. But anyway, I think I remember hearing this about this, and I didn't know where this came from. I remember briefly about that. Interesting. And Mike said, that makes sense. And then Libid says, Stacy, how did she? And Carrie says, the missing piece. And Libid says, how did that Stacy die? How'd she pass? Oh, I don't know. In fact, it's really sad because I forgot. Oh, that's okay, Libet said. And we were down there. It'll come back to you. And I said something like, where is the other sister? And Judy says, Carrie, she died. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. See, I didn't go down there for his sister's funeral. Uh-huh. Well, you live in, no. As time passes and everybody goes their own way, Mike said. And she says, I really only met her one time. Mike says, it's only natural. And then she says, but Bonnie, his mother, Bonnie, she's gay. Right, Mike says. And she says, right, okay. She wasn't always. She was married to Mark's dad. Okay, Mike said. You know, first. And I was friends with him before they got divorced. So when they got divorced, I think it was hard on Mark. I mean, he got the distinct feeling, he took it out, I got the distinct feeling he took it out on Bonnie, because I remember being teens and he would talk to her and he would not call her mom. He'd say, Bonnie, Bonnie, I mean real just Bonnie, Bonnie, you know. I'm like, she's mom. And he's like, no, she's Bonnie. And he would not call her mom. I remember he disrespected her. See, there it is, the mother. I think he just don't respect women, really. So I don't know if it's just something to do with the moms or not, but we can go back to the whole Wayne and Mark thing. Oh, she goes, but can we go back to the whole Wayne and Mark thing? They said, sure. And she says, why do you say that? I know I'm not supposed to ask why. And he said, well, we do. We're just asking. That's, and they said, the further we look into this, into different angles. And she says, oh, and he says, the more we learn about Mark's activities. Yeah, Wayne's activities, things like that. I see. And then Libet says, and it did not appear, and she says, so, and Libet says, to be a foreign concept, to be involved with numerous people. I see. You know, in their physical activities, Libet said. No, now I get it. Now I get it. So the swinging may have swung that way? She's saying, okay, and then he says, well, he may have swung in a lot of different directions. And Libet said a lot of directions. And she says, got you. And Mike says, yeah, for lack of better definition. And she says, I see it now. It's something I never thought of. And Libet says, well, because you always try to look at people's motives, you know, how they think, how they feel. She says, yeah. And they said, so, you know, she goes, no, I get it, so I get it. And then Mike says, did you ever meet him? I mean, did you ever meet Mark's brother Scott? You have any memories of Mark's brother Scott? Yes. And then Mike says, what's Scott's deal? Did you see him at the funeral? Yeah. Scott and I, yeah, and Teresa and Mark's wedding, we were friendly. We were friendly in the beach a little bit. Sure, Mike says. Yeah, in the water, we all had been drinking. We didn't have sex or anything. Oh, sure, Mike said. But you know, that's how I got to know Scotty a little bit. Uh-huh. I remember Scotty when I was a kid. You know, I really never knew him. I just knew the name Scotty. Scotty. But I really can't say I knew him well, other than this little escapade we had in the ocean. Well, it wasn't sex, okay? But I mean, we were kind of fooling around a little, but I did talk to him, you know, a little bit in the house that Sunday night. He was at the house. His wife was not there, nor the kids, but he seemed very concerned about Mark, you know? Uh-huh. He loves his brother. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he calls himself the numbers guy. I'm the numbers guy. Anything about numbers, money, but I really don't know anything about his sexual life other than, you know, that little thing we had. I don't know. I can't say anything other than that he loves his wife dearly. And, I mean, they had a late in life baby, but I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't know him that well. Sure. I really don't. I just know, I know Mark, Bonnie. Bonnie wanted me to go that night. You know, that was the thing that got me. Mark said, wait here, don't leave. I still want to talk to you. We hadn't gone out to the car yet. And she goes, what are you doing here? I go, oh, Mark said he still wants to talk to me. And she's like, oh, gosh. She acted annoyed by me. But she acted so wonderful to Wayne's wife. Yeah. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm seeing my friend. So she acted peculiar to me. But her partner, Melanie, she was very sweet to me. So I don't know. Bonnie is strange. I thought she was very aloof there through the whole thing, but very close, to Wayne's wife. Mike says. And she says, yeah. I don't know why, because I'm thinking, how does she know her? She shouldn't know her. Yeah, not that well, Mike said. She goes, no. And then Mike says, not well enough to... She goes, not really. And Mike says, cast away her own daughter to provide a room. And she goes, yeah, seriously. So I felt she acted strange, Bonnie, but, we have to ignore him. But anyway, I think she's talking about the cat or the dog now. Because Bonnie wanted me to go. She didn't want me there. Do you have any... And then they said, good to go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and... Do you want to look at the Facebook thing? She said, yeah, we'll look at it afterwards. We're just going to go because we're going to be running out of battery here shortly. Oh, okay. So we're going to go ahead and conclude at 7:03. So that was some interview, but that was a lot of information. There's probably nobody here. I don't even understand. Oh, you guys are still here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So did this? Oh, my chat is like so not caught up. I hope you guys are still here because it was... My feet are still on the foot spa. They are pretty quickly, Evie. So funny if I had this taped and we were not actually here. Oh my gosh. Okay. The joke would be on us. I think, so what did you think? That was incredible. I didn't even know. I just picked that up. I didn't even know who it was going to be. That was a lot of the information that I heard. Didn't we hear something about somebody urinating in the ocean? I heard something about that. Somebody mentioned it somewhere. We didn't know where it came from. Was that interesting to you, or were you bored to tears? It was pretty interesting to me. I would have loved to have heard that audio. That was incredible. That woman is incredible. We really should have her here. Maybe she is here. I don't know. Oh, Peggy. You lived a very sheltered life. And me too, Lisa, right? It was just in the ocean. We weren't having, yeah. Oh, we were reading an interview from this Sievers trial. Did you guys enjoy that? Very interesting? Okay, you learned a lot about, we're not in trial. We're not in trial. Oh, why not in trial? Why? Right. A lot of information, right? I have my towel right here. I'm prepared. I think of everything there, when I can. Oh yeah, Evie. Oh yeah, Evie's got engaged. Congratulations to Evie. Congratulations, Evie. It came from the Discovery Stargazer. Oh gosh, is it really that late? I didn't even look at the time. I kept thinking this is going to be over. This is going to be over. This is going to be over. You enjoyed it very much? Okay, well that's good. I think it gave us a lot of insight on the case, right? I think we got a lot of information out of that one interview. She was really good. They wanted to keep her talking, and they knew how to do it, and she was pretty good. She picked up on a lot of things, right? The sister is, I think, Shelley Bolin, Shelley Marie. Oh, Michelle. Okay. That was great reading of the interview. Very interesting. I've been listening while working on something. Okay, I can picture her standing. Oh my gosh. Evie, congrats. Okay, so that was something else. The sister is. Oh yeah, I got that, Potter. You said that a couple of times now. But so many things could have been brought up, right, Pat? Right? Yeah, right. So many things, but that's where we're hearing all that stuff about them being together, right? Right? Yeah. But now we're getting a lot of insight. That's what I'm saying. This case is just incredible. Where have you had a case where there's been so much stuff that comes out in these interviews? Right? It's just crazy. It just keeps coming out. Oh, her YouTube name. I got you. But this isn't the sister. This is his friend, Carrie. Okay. All right. Well, I've got to get to bed because I've got to go to a crafting community thing tomorrow, and I should look like I don't have dark circles under my eyes or something when I go out. But thank you to our moderators. Thank you guys for sticking around. I hope it was not boring for anyone. And you finally noticed that on the cast. Yeah, what is that? See, Jimmy has been moving this Grinch around. He's going to put him in a different spot, and it's going throughout the month of December, well, at least at Christmas. Where's the Grinch? So he's going to be somewhere over here, so you could always come and look for the Grinch in a different position. Casbot noticed, none of you others noticed the Grinch on the bulldog's head. Okay? So now this is Jimmy's thing. He was very upset because he's been doing it every night and nobody noticed it. So for true crime people, he thought you should be more observant. So he wants you to be very observant. The Grinch is going to move around. Okay? You can email me, Potter. That's fine. All right. You just helped plan the 2020 CrimeCon? Oh, wow. Good for you. All right, everybody. So look for Mr. Grinch next time. And it's a Grinch. He's a mean one, right? All right. Have a great time at the Santa. I will. Everybody have a good day. Thank you to our moderators. Thank you guys for coming. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Everybody stay well. Love you. God bless. Be safe. And let me see. I've got to get this mouse to move the... okay, there. Out here. All right. Good night.